This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Hope you had a great weekend. And it was a great weekend. Big win by the Jets on Saturday night. Great night in the barn. Sold-out crowd. Always fun when the Habs come to town, especially when the home team sends the Habs fans to the doors with frowns on their faces. Needless to say, a great way to finish up the homestand. I kind of said on, was it Monday's show or Tuesday's show, that game against Columbus in a lot of ways was sort of still part of that road trip. But moving on to the Boston, Vegas, Montreal portion, you needed to get some points, and 5 out of 6 was exactly what the doctor ordered. And the Jets get back up to the top of the Central, though they played a few extra games, and now hit the road to San Jose and Anaheim. And the Jets are just on the ice right now as we start our live broadcast here on WST. And it doesn't look like there's any changes to the Jets' line rushes, according to Mitchell Clinton. But Nikolai Ehlers and David Gustafsson are both skating and both in non-contact jerseys, although it says Ehlers and Gustafsson in the non-contact. Ehlers is actually in the regular jersey right now, but Chibrikov is taking the line rushes where Ehlers would normally be. So we'll sort of stay on top of that, see if we can get anything more for you before the end of the program in a couple hours. But the Jets are practicing right now, getting ready to get at it tomorrow night with that 9:30 start. And by the way, tomorrow is also going to be a real fun night because it is going to be the next edition of the Lock Shop Poker Series with our friends at Edmonton Sports Talk and Winnipeg Sports Talk. We're going to be starting the tourney at 9 p.m., and then the puck drops for the Jets and Sharks at 9:30 p.m. So it should be a fun night to be able to get the computer fired up, play some poker with us, and watch the Jets and Sharks. Again, go to CoolBet or the Lock Shop channels to find out more, but just basically go download the poker on CoolBet. If you go to tournament, search Lock Shop, get in there tomorrow night, 9 p.m., and all of you folks that have been in it before, hope to see you there as well. So it's the latest from Jets practice right now. We've got lots to talk about over the course of the show. Rennie's coming on. Can't wait to talk to Rennie. Plenty to get to as the Jets head out on the road, looking back at this homestand and, as well, Nikolai Ehlers and more. So we'll hit all the Jet topics with Ren. And then there's a lot of crazy stuff happening in the NHL right now. The Buffalo Sabres seem to be on the verge of implosion if it hadn't happened already. They've lost 10 straight. The New York Rangers are in disarray. Dennis Bernstein in the fourth period is going to jump on. We'll kind of pop around the league to some of the hot spots and get to that. And then, of course, we got to get into a huge weekend of the National Football League and a doubleheader tonight. Most importantly, the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Bears at home, wearing their Color Rush white uniforms tonight. And after the Lions got pumped by the Bills yesterday, Minnesota can tie Detroit at the top of the NFC North with a win tonight. So we will certainly talk about that. So it's going to be a real fun show. Shout out to everybody in chat that's joined us already. Hope you had a great weekend and enjoyed the warm-up that we've had over the last couple days. And a huge thanks to all of our sponsors that make this show happen each and every day. Of course, CoolBet, Princess Auto, the Hockey Canada Ultimate 50-50 draw, which is open right now. Link in the description if you want to get your tickets before the first draw on December 26th. Our friends at Rolly's Transfer, Manitoba Battery, fansfirst.ca, the Winnipeg Jets, Canadian Club, Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel, Little Brown Jug, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza. And we'll get to a why not question of the day for our friends at Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. Big Christmas party on the weekend. Good times for the Not crew and good times for all of us as we welcome everybody into chat and welcome Michael Remis into the program. Remo, what's up, dude? How was your weekend?
Very busy. A lot of holiday festivities with the family. It's happening. This week, next week, kids are going to be off school. I got to figure out what the heck we're going to do, but very busy weekend. Enjoy the Jets game Saturday. Love when Montreal comes to town. All the Habs fans. And, yeah, NFL yesterday. Good sports weekend, Hustler.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, Friday was quiet. There was only one hockey game. But, I mean, it was a perfect weekend from my perspective. You got a Saturday night game, 6 p.m., downtown arena, great buzz in the barn, big Jet win. And then a complete off day for the Jets yesterday so we could focus in on a full day of NFL action. Tons of games early on. The slate was sort of meh, but then huge games late. I mean, that Bills-Lions game, Eagles, Steelers, Bucks-Chargers, Colts-Broncos. I mean, we'll touch on all the NFL a little bit later on, but it was great. And on top of it all, even though we only had that deep freeze for 2 days, I think it certainly rattled me. I wasn't ready for that extreme that early. What a breath of fresh air to get these balmy temperatures we've had for the last couple of days. Now, it's not going to last, but enjoy it while it's here. And maybe you could say the same thing about where the Jets are in the standings of the National Hockey League as we start the show today, because you have Winnipeg 1 point ahead of the Washington Capitals and the Minnesota Wild on top of the NHL standings. Now, again, the Wild do have one game in hand on the Jets, and the Caps actually have 3 games in hand on the Jets. What a crazy season for Washington after just barely squeaking into the playoffs. And I think a lot of people thought that was once again going to be a very borderline team, maybe more likely than not to miss the playoffs. They might be the best story of the year so far in the NHL with 44 points through only 29 games. Nevertheless, though, a good spot for the Jets and a big win on Saturday that was a little more special, Remo, because you got an original 6 team with the history of the Habs coming in, but coming in with a big part of Winnipeg Jets history as well, as Patrick Laine came in and charmed everybody in the presser before the game, and then went out and showed that he's still got a lot to offer. Although, as we maybe thought that Patrick Laine would end up being a Winnipeg Jet legend and is somewhat legendary for what he did early on in his career, the Winnipeg Jet legend, Connor Hellebuck, letting everyone know who the boss was, and first star in the win, and the Jets on a real strong night for the special teams get him an important 2 points and a couple days off and then out on the road.
Yeah, we had a great conversation on Friday's show with Sean Starr from TSN 690 Montreal just about Patrick Laine's impact in Montreal. You know, it's only his 6th game with the team since his return, and it was amazing to hear him mention he didn't touch a stick for a long time during his time in the assistance program. Didn't look like it on Saturday. For all the time he spent talking, you're wondering, should we be talking about this guy that much? Is he even that good? Man, the way the puck comes off his stick, it's just like it looked when he was here with the Jets. Incredible 7 shots on goal. Hellebuck making highlight reel save after highlight reel save. And yes, calling Hellebuck the Winnipeg Jet legend, I think, is accurate. As 2 Vezina trophies, possible 3rd this year. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? Climbing up the all-time goalie wins ranks, shutout ranks, and it was an awesome show on Saturday House with Patrick Laine, just how the shot explodes and off his stick, and Hellebuck making highlight reel save after highlight reel save, but also the Winnipeg Jets power play finding their form again, scoring on a 5-on-3, with the game-winning goal and getting them on the board with some really nice passing from Kyle Connor to Gabriel Velarde. So I thought the Jets had a really nice bounce-back performance there from losing in overtime to Vegas, where they really got outplayed. Hellebuck still had to stand on his head a bit, but I think the Jets were certainly the better team on Saturday. And now they hit the road. But I'll agree with you. That Sunday game against Columbus, that was like continuation of the road trip. You could tell they got back into rhythm, finding their game again. And we'll see how they look. Good time to get some sun right now, Huss. Although I don't know what the temperature is, but I'm sure it's better than here.
Yeah, but listen, nothing to complain about right now. Last week when Vegas was here, that sucked. Right now, this is balmy, and we will take it. But it is the time for the Jets to get out and, take care of business. It's not a busy week. They've got the 2 games back-to-back in California and then have another 2 days off. And then, of course, our game, WST night, the holiday game, Saturday against the Minnesota Wild. I'll plug that right now. If you haven't already got your tickets, do not wait. I know that one's filling up. It should be a packed house on Saturday night heading into the holidays. And if you go into the link in the description of this video, or just simply put in winnipegjets.com/WST, grab your tickets to join myself, Remis, and the rest of the WST crew that already has their seats for what should be another great night. Undefeated so far in the season. Really back to when we broke the streak at the end of last season against Calgary. The Jets and WST has been on a heater. Your ticket includes a beer or a beverage of your choice, which you'll use on the Jets 360 app. And we'll be gathering in that hangar bar to get things going as well before the game. So, Saturday night, let's make it happen. Would love to see you there. Grab a few friends, grab your tickets, and join us for that game. So, 4 games now until the Christmas break. You got the 2 games on the road this weekend. Come back home for the Saturday night game. And then the very strangely timed game, Remis, a week today, December 23rd, Jets and Leafs at 1 o'clock p.m. So we'll have some different programming next week. Obviously, we're not going to be on when the game is on. We'll let the other guys do post-game stuff. So still working on maybe a special Christmas gift for you all on the WST channel. But bottom line is time to get out and, take advantage of 2 teams that, frankly, like the Canadiens were on Saturday night, not quite in the weight class of the Winnipeg Jets, that being the San Jose Sharks, although they played a lot better as of late, and Macklin Celebrini's the real deal. And then, of course, the Anaheim Ducks, who've made a few trades. And I guess we'll get to see Jacob Trouba on Wednesday night as well.
Yes, Jacob Trouba, first game as a Duck against his former team, Winnipeg Jets. I'm excited to see the Sharks. I think they've been a lot better as of late. They did, both these teams are playing this week, made trades last week or over the weekend. Mackenzie Blackwood from the Sharks and the Ducks trading away Cam Fowler to the Blues. I guess they also acquired Jacob Trouba. And Macklin Celebrini, man, he's been so good. A lot of talk about Connor Bedard, all the hype for him for possibly making Team Canada. Macklin Celebrini, he's been just as good every time he's in the lineup. Him and Will Smith, I don't know if you saw their Christmas video, like they're the new Thornton and Marlowe for the Sharks. Or at least that's what they're hoping going forward as they pass the torch in that Christmas video, So 2 late games. I love the late games. Has to get to tuck the wife and kids in and get on the couch, sprawl out, get some popcorn. In this case, tomorrow we'll be playing poker on Cool Bet during the game. So we'll see how this goes. But these are 2 games, you're right. They need to win. Their team's below you in the standings. And the Jets have done a really good job winning those games that they should win this season and last season. So, good week. We'll have, some days off in between games. Finally, us. And 4 days off in a row next week before a couple home ones on Saturday again. And Monday, that's a prime Monday game, 6:30 here against Nashville.
Oh, yes, the game on the 30th. That's
Yes.
right. That's right. I know someone was asking about the game on the 23rd. I don't believe an afternoon game would be a prime game.
TSN 3, yeah.
So that'll be TSN 3. Excellent. Hey, just before we get into a hearing from Arnie and kind of breaking this down, should we give a shout out to one of our own, Spency, repping for the WST chat on the national broadcast on the weekend?
Yeah, so after I'm watching the game and after Kyle Connor scored to make it 3-1. They cut to a bunch of fans, and there's some crazed fan with hair screaming into the camera. And I'm like, wait a second, that's Spency. And I'm sitting with my wife, and I'm like, that guy who was just screaming in the camera, he's a big listener of our show. And she was like, oh my God. But it was awesome to see Spency showing so much passion. I do have the clip here, Hustler. You can hear the scream as well that the Ric Flair woo into the camera. Here's Spency.
He finds the back of the net. Power play goal.
There it is. Over here.
I mean,
let me do it again. Let me do it again.
Yeah, one more time.
Hold on. I have the GIF. One sec. I'll bring it up. Here, I'll bring up the GIF. Because you can't. It's just so quick.
Special guest star Bridget as well in the row in front of Spency, it looked like.
Yeah.
He finds the back of the net. Power play goal.
There it is. Now there's Spency in the chat. He says LOL.
Good stuff. Anyways, great to see you guys at the game on the weekend. I hope we'll see all of you hang with us up in section 316 coming on the weekend. So it's just before we hear from Arnie. Listen, I thought the Jets had this game basically, well in control pretty much the entire night. Montreal did score that goal in the third period. What a gift. Montreal did score that goal in the third period to make it 3-2. But, unlike some games, it never really felt like the Jets weren't fully in control. And I think a perfect example was creating another power play opportunity with the way that they were playing late in the final 3 minutes. Was it Lane Houston, the young rookie defenseman for the Habs, had his first goal in the National Hockey League, which certainly made some of the visiting fans happy to see. He also got a major welcome to the NHL moment when Adam Lowry of the Winnipeg Jets decided to back that ass up, if you will, shout out Juvenile, right into the crease, boxing out Hudson and firing it into the net for a goal. I know there was a lot of discourse about the Lowry line taking it on the chin lately. I certainly didn't feel that way in the game, even though I know some of the analytic numbers weren't quite there. I don't have a lot of worries about the Adam Lowry line right now, but maybe that's just me. I don't think it is just me. And listen, another strong game for Nikita Chibrikov, although shockingly he did not score a goal in the game. But overall, you'll see these games where the even strength is sort of whatever, special teams, and this is the difference between this year's Winnipeg Jets to last year's Winnipeg Jets. The play of the special teams. The PK, which had been a little leaky lately, was perfect. Even with Patrik Laine pulling the trigger on those, Connor Hellebuyck was big. And 2 great power play goals to set the tone for the Winnipeg Jets as they beat the Habs 4-2. Let's hear from Scott Arnie. He spoke after the game. Here's what the Jets head coach had to say about the win over Montreal.
Yeah, I think we also put them on their heels quite a bit too. I mean, it was a pretty entertaining game. A lot of specialty teams kind of turned it a little bit, but real proud of both of our units there. Our power play and our penalty kill really stepped up tonight, and I really liked our effort. I thought it was a really, really good bounce back from what we had done the other night against Vegas. It was a real solid win.
All right, so there's Arnie on the win over the Habs, and of course, Sean and Reynolds is going to jump on in a couple of minutes. We'll be talking about the play of Connor Hellebuyck and a lot of talk about Laine's playful jab in the pregame about the Patty flu. Here's Arnie on if Helly's familiarity with Laine allowed him to stop all 7 heaters that came his way.
I think he knows the opponent pretty well. Yeah. Probably saw him an awful lot in practice, but. For us, no matter if it's it's Laine, it's Ovi, there's certain players that that they're going to get their looks. We're kind of setting it up so that Helly is waiting for it. We don't want multiple options happening, whether it's into the slot or maybe it's the other flanker getting the shot. If Helly knows where where the shot's going to end up, he's set. He doesn't have to come from the other side of the ice and slide across to make a save, and so we don't want it to go in that case to Laine, but at the end of the day, we took away the other options, and that's where it ended up. And if he can see it and he can front and get himself big, he usually stops it.
One of the other things that the Jets did well, and certainly, as I mentioned, Adam Lowry backing up the truck over the young rookie defenseman of the Habs and being in the spot to smack that one home. I thought that line, the Chibrikov line, the Ehlers, the former Ehlers line.
On his own line.
Yeah, exactly. That's how good he's been. We're now just calling it the Chibrikov line. But I thought Perfetti had a really strong game. Nemestikov was in. But, they brought the puck to the net quite a bit, and Chibrikov was right there and almost had his fourth goal in 4 games in the National Hockey League. Here's Arnie just on going to the net the way they did, and a perfect example when Adam Lowry, the captain, was rewarded from close range.
This year.
Yeah, and I think there was some other good examples of that we didn't do against Vegas, where we did throw them. We threw some pucks in there and kind of created the explosion like we've talked about, created the sort of got Montreal on the run a little bit, but that was a nice play, and where Lau scored it from. Those are the hard areas. I didn't think we did enough of that the other night against Vegas. I thought the first Vladdy's line had a couple of great looks. They were hacking and whacking in around there. Even Scheif and those guys were, with KC, they threw some in there, and we went into those areas, and that's what you have to do as the games get harder and teams get tougher. They're not going to give you easy slot line, sort of easy backdoor plays. You got to go in those areas and get those goals.
It's the Nemestikov line almost setting an example, and those are 3 of the smallest forwards that you have. Can you use that as a coach? Does that fire you up, or does that fire players up?
And that's been the kind of just those guys, their MO. Even when flies with those guys, Ehlers, when he plays them, they're not all big guys and they're not all physical guys, but they use their quickness to steal pucks, and then they get in there and they look to score in different ways. That line tonight, I thought in the first period was one of our best lines, and they were going against the dock line, and I think they were looking up at every one of those guys. A couple times they're out against Anderson and Gallagher line, when those are some big bodies, heavy guys, and I thought they did a fantastic job of getting the zone time and getting those looks.
All right, there's a little bit of coach after the win on the weekend against the Montreal Canadiens. We're going to break it down and talk plenty of Jets topics with Sean Reynolds of Sportsnet and Kenny and Rennie in just a minute. Don't forget, gang, there is still plenty of time to get tickets for Canada's ultimate 50-50 draw, the biggest power play yet ahead of the World Juniors and in time for Christmas, because the first of 3 draws goes on December 26th. And, with this being a national promotion from Hockey Canada, every hockey organization provincially is doing their own draw. So when you buy tickets for this, it is all going into the Manitoba pool. There will be a Manitoba winner. You're not competing with the thousands of people in Ontario or in Alberta. And the best part is all the money is going to be staying right here outside of the 50% that goes to the winner to promote grassroots hockey initiatives. So support the game. Give your chance to win a big payday. Go to hockeymanitoba.myshopify.com and grab your tickets today. If you're with us on YouTube, there's a link in the description of this video, and good luck to everyone that's picking up tickets for the event. Folks, if you can believe it, 2025 is just a few weeks away. If you and your family have a move coming up in the new year, talk to our friends at Rolly's Transfer about getting you set up and taking as much of the stress out of the move as possible with Rolly's. Family owned and operated for over 60 years and the most trusted name in moving services in Manitoba. What you're going to want to do is go to their website at rollys.com. Top right corner, you can request an estimate. Let them know when and where you're looking to make the move to and what needs to go, and the friendly staff at Rolly's will turn it around quickly, get you a great quote to get you locked in with the famous white glove service that Rolly's is known for, to get you and your family onto your new destination for 2025. For your next move, make it Rolly's, rollys.com for more information and request an estimate today. Happy holidays to our friends over at Rolly's. We got that blast of winter last week, and you know that there's more coming up, which is a perfect reminder ahead of Christmas to give a gift that matters with the help of Manitoba Battery this year. Don't let your loved ones be stranded out in the cold with a vehicle that won't start. Make sure they're equipped to handle what's ever thrown at them this winter with things like a NOCO 1,000 amp booster pack for only $139.50, or a set of 25-foot booster cables for just $65. Or, guys, you can also treat yourself to a great deal and grab that ice fishing flasher battery you need, or that sled battery that needs to be replaced. All for the best prices in the city, period, beating the pants off the big box stores each and every day. Whether it's to you or your loved ones, let Manitoba Battery help you give a gift that matters this Christmas. Learn more at manitobabattery.com. Now with 2 locations to serve you. And as we bring in Rennie, he's a guy that's known for looking pretty damn good when the camera's on him. Guys, if you need to up your menswear game heading into 2025, get on down to F Apparel and check out this deal right now up until Christmas. Free money, yes, please. When you purchase an F gift card of $100 or more, you'll get 15% added to the card just like that. So for the best in custom men's clothing, custom shirts, khakis, dress pants, and more, and the best selection of menswear accessories, F has you covered. And right now, gift card purchases of $100 or more all come with a 15% bonus. Find out more or pick them up at 190 Smith Street downtown or online at F. That's EPHapparel.com. All right, let's bring in the man himself, Sean Reynolds, entertaining us always after Winnipeg Jet games with Ken Wiebe on KNR and holding it down on Sportsnet. Ren, what's up? How was your weekend?
Good weekend, yeah. Good game that the Jets were in. I thought that was a fun tilt between those two teams. Patrick Laine went out of his way to make it fun. Connor Hellebuyck responding the way he did and enjoying that response the way he did helped make it fun. I thought it was not just a great hockey game, but a good example of kind of the best parts of the sport when it comes to entertainment. I've always thought Patrick Laine did a good job of bringing that out in the game, so it was good to have him back doing exactly that.
Well, for sure. I mean, listen, it's special when he comes here. He has a very unique spot in the hearts of Winnipeg Jet fans, and I think just sports fans in this city. And the fact that this was his first time back after such a brutal year last year, which I think, just on a human level, had everyone feeling for him. And we talked to Sean Starr on the program on Friday, and it's been very apparent if you've watched or paid attention to the Habs this year that Laine is the sort of a guy that I think maybe has found a perfect landing spot for him. Now, the team's not very good at this point. They certainly have a long ways to go, but they do have some young talent. But this is a city that appreciates star power, absolutely encourages flashy players, if you will, and he is one of them. And really, right from day one in getting there, he has been embraced as, sort of a star. And it seemed like it's really allowed him to get past the kind of miserable chapter, both personally and professionally, that the last couple of years were. And he can still rip it. He can still rip it, Rennie. And Connor Hellebuyck had to be damn good to make sure he didn't get on the score sheet.
Yeah, did he ever? But you're right. Montreal, kind of the perfect landing spot. I mean, they love their Europeans. Growing up in the 80s and when I started getting into hockey, Mats Naslund seemed to be like the biggest deal there. Like you said, they love their star power. They're starving for it. Montreal Canadiens as a franchise haven't had a point per game player since Alex Kovalev back in 2008. And then you have to go back to the 90s to find the one before that. So this is a team that has been devoid of super high-end offensive talent for 2.5 decades at this stage. Laine can fill that hole. He likes to have fun. Habs fans, for the most part, like to have fun. I know a lot of people were saying him going there was going to be disastrous because of how hard that market can be and how it's such a fishbowl. Laine, I think, kind of enjoys the fishbowl. He enjoys talking with people. He enjoys talking with the media. I thought that I went out many times on KNR before he ended up there and said I thought that was maybe the perfect landing spot for him. The problem there, Huss, is the idea that, I talked with it's not a story I got to share on the broadcast, but I talked with Marty St. Louis about, Hull had Oates and Ovi had Backstrom. Is there a guy who's a candidate to be that to Patrick Laine? Is Kirby Dach going to grow into that? Is Slavkovsky? And just blunt as could be, he said no. Like, we don't have a guy like that right now. Suzuki's an elite playmaker, but he goes with Caulfield. So Laine still has done everything he's done in his career for the most part without that really great running mate that most of those really elite shooters have had. If I were the Montreal Canadiens, I would be going out of my way, scouring, doing whatever I needed to do. They've got full cupboards. If they were able to go out and find a centerman, the kind of centerman that draws guys to him, opens up space for his opposition, and then could lay that puck over to him, I think it still is impressive to me. Patrick Laine has done everything he's done in his career without a true setup man, because all those years he played with Brian Little, I remember the year he had 44 goals. I think only 6 of those 44 goals were assisted by his centerman, Brian Little, that year. So he was scoring those goals when he kind of escaped that line. So I think that should be job number 1 for the Montreal Canadiens. They're not winning right now. Like you said, they're not a very good team. They should be going out trying to figure out a way to get Patrick Laine the puck in positions a lot like they did with him in that game against the Jets, because if they do that, you noticed Scott Arniel talked about when you come with shooters like Ovi and Laine, like right off the bat, he takes Laine and he puts him right at the same level as the guy who's going to end up being the highest scorer in NHL history and the guy who's got one of the greatest shots in NHL history. Laine's shot is one of the greatest shots in NHL history. Canadians need to go to find a way to unlock it by getting the right
funny
player.
thing that while you mentioned that is it certainly seems like, especially on the power play, that everyone's trying to put their hand up to be that guy, because all they're trying to do is get it to him. Now, maybe it was a little bit of a different situation in Winnipeg, knowing, that he was a bit of a homecoming. They would have liked to see him. They knew he was up for that game. He's still as dangerous of a piece on the power play that I think you'll find. His game, the game is so fast right now that I do wonder whether Laine will turn into a guy that can be consistently productive at 5-on-5 moving forward. But, who you're playing with certainly is well noted. And, as they say right now, this team is sort of still in that growth stage. Although, to be honest, I don't know whether they've taken much of a big step forward. And, I know the game finished up with an empty netter and was 4-2 last night, Sean, or on Saturday night, Sean, but I really felt like the Jets were, like, they were never really in any sort of danger, even when they was 3-2 in the third period. And I thought they played, a pretty good game. Could it have been better? Would that have been enough to beat some of the top teams in the league? Maybe not. But maybe from a real positive side of things for Winnipeg, in 82 games, you'll have those games that'll go one way or the other. The difference in special teams on that night is a perfect kind of mirror to, I think, why the Winnipeg Jets are where they are right now, because the power play continues to come through. They had 2 goals last night on Saturday, and then, of course, a PK that had been a little leaky in the previous couple weeks, stepping up with 4-on-4. And you combine solid special teams with a great goaltending performance, you're going to win most of those nights regardless of who you play.
Yeah, the power play, quite simply, has been winning the Winnipeg Jets games, won them that game, and has been winning them games all season. And it's interesting because it's what Rick Bowness talked about last season. He said, if we could get our power play going, we'd have a certain amount of more wins. To your point about the Jets finding a way to, you're going to have those games throughout the year, and finding a way to win them is crucial, especially if you're going to try and stay where the Winnipeg Jets are, which right now is first in the NHL in points. That's definitely going to be crucial. I'll say this, the Winnipeg Jets, I think, have done a really good job of that. Like, I take a look at this year, and I can name probably 4, maybe 5 games I think the Jets have won or got points in that they really didn't deserve to get a point in, right? They find ways to come out of those games. I can't think of any games this year, Huss, where the Jets have been the better team, clearly the better team on the ice, and failed to come out with the victory. Like, they win the games they're supposed to win. They win a number of the games that they're not supposed to win. part of that is going to be the special teams. Like you said, the power play is going to, if it's equal opportunities, or even if the opposition has more opportunities, but you're better at capitalizing on your opportunities. That was the case clearly in that game against the Canadiens, because in the end, the Canadiens had a lot of power play opportunities. They just couldn't get it past Connor Hellebuyck. So for me, it's the special teams is making the difference for the Jets this year. Connor Hellebuyck is making the difference for the Jets this season. And the other thing I think that they're very, very good at, that Canadiens game hinges on that really, really dumb penalty that Dvorak takes, right? Like they're down, they're already down, and then he goes out of his way to cross-check Mark Scheifele in the face, and now all of a sudden they're down 5-on-3. Boom, it's in the back of the net. That's the game winner in that game. The Jets don't do that. Like, Huss, we can think to that Minnesota Wild game in which those two Wild players decided for some reason that they wanted to go and mug Alex Iafallo on one side of the ice, and then gave an odd man rush the other way, and the goals in the back of the net. That was the game winner in that game. You do not see the Winnipeg Jets going for personal vendettas or taking really stupid penalties on the ice. They are fully focused on the things that they do on the ice, trying to win games. And if it's not going to win them games, they usually don't take part in it. They usually don't get into the stupid stuff on the ice. So they're a really, really well disciplined team, and it's one of the reasons they're winning the amount of games they are.
Hey, it's basically a daily topic on our show and on your show after each and every game, where we sort of go into the minutia of everything. Nikita Chibrikov's been up and has played very, very well in Nikolai Ehlers' absence. We'll get to that in a minute. What did you think of the blue line on the weekend? And of course, Colin Miller was back in, Ville was out, Stan was in. And what was interesting is we saw a bunch, and again, it wasn't for extended periods of time. But, for instance, we saw Colin Miller playing with Josh Morrissey for a period of time. We saw Dylan DeMello with some different partners. And, of course, we saw Logan Stanley, continually, out there and, doing some good and obviously having some issues as well. Where are we at on the blue line so far? And obviously that third pairing, which we often touch on in Saturday's incarnation of Miller on the right side and 64 on the left.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm at the stage where it's very, very clear to me that the Winnipeg Jets are going to have to address their blue line before they go into the playoffs this year. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone to hear me say that or to hear anybody say that. I think that that's fully what the Winnipeg Jets brass are expecting to do. They came into this year, Colin Miller was the 7th defenseman for the Winnipeg Jets in the playoffs last year. He comes into this year the 5th or 6th defenseman. I think what the Winnipeg Jets were doing at the start of the year, going and getting guys like Coghlan and getting guys like Fleury, he's getting those guys who have traditionally been 7th defensemen around the NHL, and he's bringing those guys in, and he's just getting a little bit of depth on the back end, knowing that he can ride guys like Neil Pionk, knowing he can ride guys like Sandberg and DeMello, and of course Josh Morrissey, and kind of get your way through the season there. But you won't hear Scott Arniel saying it. He doesn't talk about that. He's usually building those guys up. If you're talking about the show and the stuff that we hear from the audience, Huss, of course, you're hearing from your audience a frustrated Winnipeg Jets fan base, typically who like to target Logan Stanley with their frustrations. There's valid points and valid reasons for that. And, guys like Josh Morrissey and Pionk have been playing so good this year that I think it's tough for a guy like Logan Stanley, because when you do have the errors that almost every other defense unit has anywhere else in the league, it just stands out so badly because those guys really don't make a lot of mistakes. They're kind of ironclad right now. So mistakes really do stand out on the back end, but they are also going to really stand out in the playoffs. So the Winnipeg Jets are going to need to address that when they're heading into the playoffs and get that job done. I was very interested when Cam Fowler went on the market. I thought that would be something the Winnipeg Jets were interested in. You're starting to see teams make those kind of moves to shore things up. So the Winnipeg Jets, I'm sure, are looking. I fully expect them to make a move.
Yeah, listen, I don't. It would be more surprising if they didn't make some sort of move, and if they did, and I wouldn't even rule out maybe multiple blue liners coming in or changing at some point. And I guess it depends on what you have to give out. Stanley's interesting. He is obviously a polarizing figure. There are some times where he has a difficulty moving the puck or, makes some mistakes that, he probably gets piled on more than any other player, but maybe he gives that much more ammunition. The thing, and this goes back to the Boston game where things got a little crazy, and he ended up fighting Kastelik as well. I don't know, Sean, we know why he's there.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of size. He can kill penalties. He can play that sort of role that they want in that sixth defenseman that hopefully eases up the load of Adam Lowry to be the guy that sort of lays down the law. The more I watch this, it just kind of feels like we're putting a square peg in a round hole, because with all the size that Logan has, he just doesn't seem like he has. He's just not that mean. He's not that nasty, and I don't know that any of that rough stuff really comes naturally to him. And I understand why they put a lot into him, and they've had him around as long. I guess I just wonder at what point have they seen what they're going to see and decide that maybe there's someone better to have that job right now. It's tough to move on because of how much they put into him. And then, of course, Ville Heinola is the other guy on that sign. It'd be interesting right now. I'm not sure if either of those guys are players for the Winnipeg Jets, even if they're on the team come playoff time, if they're really making a push to try to win.
I think the answer to that is a resounding no. I don't think either of them are. And I know that there's a massive part of the Jets fan base and a bunch of them who are going to be watching this show right now who will get mad when I say it right away. But, Nikita Chibrikov is a guy who comes in, and that's what it's supposed to look like for a guy who's grabbing his spot in the NHL. He goes out, he makes your eye pop every night. He's producing, he's getting results. That's what that's supposed to look like. We have not and have never seen that from Ville Heinola in his auditions with the Winnipeg Jets. I know that there's a large portion of the audience that have believed that he's Cale Makar number 2 and have felt that for 3 or 4 years and have thought that the Winnipeg Jets have been mismanaging him this entire time. At some point, it's incumbent upon the player to get into the lineup and make your eyes pop and say, listen, you can't send me down because it's just too obvious that I belong here. He hasn't got there. He's got a little bit of runway, but probably not that much, the way that they're cycling guys in and out here to prove that he could be that guy going into the playoffs. I'll be honest, I don't really think there's enough time left because they're going to throw Stanley in there. And just to touch on your point, you brought it up. You said what we all know. This is about the Logan Stanley thing being out there. You're right. I think he's a guy who was a star in junior. He was an offensive guy. A lot of the fighters from junior came into the league. Ty Domi was a great scorer in junior, and then he comes in and then he gets rolled into this role. Logan Stanley, I think you're right, square peg round hole. I don't think he wants to be that role. I think he can play it. Right now, the Jets are treating him more like, when you go to Superstore and there's police officers standing there, you never ever see them doing anything, but they're there as the deterrent. I think that's what Logan Stanley is there for, and he's there out of respect from this team and this organization to Adam Lowry, because it would not be fair to take him out of the lineup and put Adam Lowry in situations where really, for the most part, he's the one guy who could step out and take care. You saw Boston. Boston had 3 guys and probably a couple more they could have sent into the fray if it got really, really crazy in that game against Boston. Jets had Logan Stanley and they had Adam Lowry. It wouldn't be fair to put Adam Lowry in a situation every night, whereas if the other team has one tough guy, he's got to square up if the other team tries to make it, drag it into the trenches. So the Lowry thing is the reason the Logan Stanley thing is happening here. But to the point that you're making about those guys, I don't know that anyone that we've seen on the out of the 5th and 6th hole this year will be the guys that we'll see on the back end for the Jets in the playoffs.
Well, and that's what really magnifies the loss of Brendan Dillon to me, in that Brendan Dillon was not a guy that did it often, but everyone knew where he was on the ice. He was capable of making devastating hits, and if things got really messy, he was going to be there, and he was a handful. Going back to the Boston thing, when your boy Trent Frederick decided to go after Gustafson, tongue in cheek, of course, Stanley's on the ice. You want a guy there that they have to know, is on the ice. And if you're going to pull that sort of BS, with a guy like, Gustafsson of all players, that there is immediate retribution. I mean, in a lot of ways, Kastelik went after him.
Yes.
Much like Frederick went after Gus. So,
yes.
I mean, it's not such a big part of the game on a day-to-day basis. But when we look at playing top teams, and I realize that Boston isn't the team that we are used to seeing for the last number of years.
They're minus 19 in goal differential.
Exactly.
They're a placeholder in the playoffs.
They've never, the Lindholm ad has not done much to replace the loss of Bergeron and then a loss of Krejci. They're not there, but they still have that mean side. But to me, the measuring stick is the Florida Panthers, who will play you and beat you however you want. But more often than not, they're going to tell you the way that they're going to play, and you better be ready to be, to handle that.
Yes.
And right now, and maybe this is still a bit of an overreaction from my side from what we saw against Boston last week, but the more I look at this team, like against Montreal, whatever. Although it was a perfect example when Wi-Fi was running around racking guys. I mean, to actually go and make that statement, and it just seems it only happens when there's absolutely no other recourse. And I do wonder, inside the GM's room, and the coach's room, because Scott O'Neill is not a guy that wants his team to be backing down from anyone, how big of a need they feel that is, whether it's in the short term or more likely for the long term when you get into those best of seven series that often can get a little squirrely depending on what happens from game to game in a 7-game series.
Yeah, I covered 3 of the 4 rounds in the playoffs last year, and for the most part, that kind of stuff disappears. So I understand, and hey, I'm the guy who went out on the show afterwards, and I know a lot of people were upset with the take that I had here, but I thought that Boston situation showed that the Winnipeg Jets need a little bit more of that going on, and you nailed it 100%. Huss, because they miss Brendan Dillon, not just because he was a great defenseman, not just because he could chuck them and play that rough game and throw hits and get a little bit nasty if you needed that, but because he could do both. And that's the trick, right? Right now they have Logan Stanley, who can, if he needs to, he can throw the chuck the knuckles if that's what you need. Like you said, he's not really the meanest guy, but he can't play defense like Brendan Dillon played defense, and he probably can't bring up the temperature of a game the way that Brendan Dillon did. So it's not so easy to add that element, because you need to add it if you're doing it in a way that you're saying we don't need Logan Stanley to play that role anymore. You have to find a defenseman very specifically who can do that. So really the one thing the Winnipeg Jets need most to put themselves in a situation where they don't need to rely on Logan Stanley, the one thing they need most is the guy they had in Brendan Dillon, right? So I don't know how easy that is to find. Cam Fowler, I was talking about him earlier. He's not that. You bring that guy in, he's a little bit more of a larger body who can move the puck and, just makes your defense better. Maybe it's a little bit. The one thing I think the Winnipeg Jets are really equipped to do, Huss, is, the top line, Kyle Connor's kind of too fast to catch. Mark Scheifele's fast and really rugged and durable. Velarde's a big guy. If you take a look at their third line can handle themselves, not in fights, but they're just like, you're not going to push those guys around. And your fourth line, you're not going to push them around at all either. They're not mean. The Winnipeg Jets aren't a mean team, but they are big enough and rugged enough, I think, to kind of last through that stuff. So maybe they don't necessarily need to address it, because once you get to the playoffs, I think it kind of goes away. But having said all that, I know that the reason Logan Stanley is in the lineup the way that he is to make sure that Adam Lowry is covered off and isn't the only guy having to play that role. And they don't want their captain, who is massively important for them on the penalty kill, on the ice, to how he scored that goal the other night. Right now, they're the best examples of direct 5-on-5 offense that the Winnipeg Jets have. Adam Lowry's too important to be fighting 5 more times this year than he did last year. And basically the only way you can keep that from happening is keeping Logan Stanley in the lineup.
Yeah, I was talking with some friends about Josh Anderson afterwards, and Anderson is a guy that I think he's criminally overpaid, which makes him very difficult to bring in. I mean, at 5.5, and if it was an expiring contract, maybe you would think about a guy like that. There's 2 years left at 5.5. It makes it very, very difficult to bring on. But there are some players out there on teams that might be available that could give a bit of a different look. And I guess that'll be a an ongoing conversation over the next few months. The one guy that has come into the lineup and has looked very good is Nikita Chibrikov. And while he's not a big guy at all, he certainly plays with a fierceness in his game where he's not backing down from anything. And we've seen from where he scored his goals and almost had a beautiful one on Monday night, crashing the crease. I mean, he doesn't play with a lot of fear in his game. All accounts, he's been great and has fit in quite well. And I think, frankly, has even exceeded expectations playing on the line that he was playing for the last little bit. Nikolai Ehlers is in the blue jersey today, which would indicate he's close to being back in the lineup. Whether it's tomorrow night or later, we'll see. What are your thoughts on Chibrikov, what he's shown so far, and what happens to Chibrikov when Ehlers is activated?
So to piggyback on what I said before, I think Chibrikov is a great sign of where this organization is. So last year, we all know the Winnipeg Jets, they'd have an injury in the top six. They'd graduate a guy like Alex Iafallo or Nemesnikov up to that top six, and then they'd feed from the bottom. They'd bring in, AJF or Dominic Toninato or something like that, or Gus, and that's how they handled that situation. You're truly healthy when you lose a top six guy and you've got a top six prospect waiting to jump into the lineup and play that exact same role. I always remember Paul Maurice talked about guys like when they brought in Kyle Connor, he said, you want that guy succeeding at that role in the AHL, and then you want to bring him up to the very same role in the NHL. Well, the Jets are there now with Brad Lambert, with Nikita Chibrikov, where you can feed your top six from the Manitoba Moose. That's how you want it. That's the way it should be. But the other side of that is it's not a given. If you're that player and you're jumping up, you are expected to produce. When you are a top six player in the NHL, you got to produce on the scoreboard. So I really liked the way that the coaching staff handled this. Brad Lambert came in. He looked good, I thought. He didn't score right away. The Winnipeg Jets, we've seen this before, and we've seen it with Perfetti quite a bit last year, and you're seeing it with Perfetti again this year. They have all kinds of patience for young, offensive guys who kind of go to sleep for a little while, right? But Brad Lambert comes in, and he gets a couple cracks at it. Didn't, break the barrier. So let's give the other guy a try. I like that the Winnipeg Jets did this. It's creating internal competition. Now, if you're Brad Lambert, you realize, hey, I know I was the first in line for the call-up. That's not the case anymore. Nikita Chibrikov jumped me in the queue here, and he's doing a really good job. So I better get to work and start, working on my game so that the next time I get a shot, I pop a couple in the net. So I'm the guy there. The thing I take away from that is, and I don't think this is going to happen, Huss, because they've had all kinds of patience with Perfetti. And you were talking before I hopped on how you really like Perfetti's game against Montreal. There's a lot of stuff that Cole Perfetti does that's really, really good. I just think at this stage now, it's okay to start expecting more from him offensively, right? Like the patience and the patient angle of, so many people talked about him last year, and I just heard people say over and over and over again, for a stretch, he was a point per game player. People just so badly wanted to define him as this guy who had arrived as a point per game player, but he also went to sleep for a huge, wide swath of time, which you can't have. This is what I'm saying. In the top six, your top six have to produce. I would be more than happy if I were Scott Arniel to use Nikita Chibrikov, who's earned a spot right now to stick around. If Nikolai Ehlers comes back, I mean, you're not sitting Nikolai Ehlers. When he gets back, he's ready to go. He's going in. I would have no problem for a couple games putting Nikita Chibrikov into Cole Perfetti's spot and seeing what kind of pop happens when you put Chibrikov beside a guy like Nick Ehlers, because I think there's no downside to this. I think that if you put Chibrikov in, maybe you find something out in Chibrikov that you didn't know existed, or maybe you just give that kid so much confidence that when he goes back down to the Manitoba Moose, he's flying on cloud nine. He goes down there and kicks ass and takes names, and then the next time he comes to the NHL, he's going crazy. At the very least, if he goes in and hits, then you've got a guy who's hitting and producing, and you can ride that for a while. If he doesn't, you can put Cole Perfetti back in with the message that, hey, Cole, I know you've been here for a while, but there's competition coming from the back end. We need more from you. We need you producing these long lulls where you kind of go to sleep offensively. like it or not, you're paid to be an offensive guy. Offensive guys get paid to produce. He's got to produce more, and I see Chibrikov as a tool to kind of try and elicit that.
You know what? Listen, I think that is a great point. And listen, I mean, I'm not here saying Perfetti needs to go to the press box or anything like that, because I said I thought Chibrikov brought out a lot of good things with him. I thought the example he sets by where he's scoring the goals, by the way he takes that direct line to the net, it is a good thing for a player like Perfetti to be around. But your point about competition, I mean, there hasn't really been any point up until Bones pulled the trigger and had him in the press box last year that, there was someone from, for instance, the bottom six that was knocking on the door. Now, I know you and Ken have had long conversations about the Lowry line, and, like Nino Niederreiter is absolutely capable of playing up in that spot. Perfetti doesn't really fit with the Adam Lowry line. I think we can all agree on that. And there is a roles and styles of the way that they play. But here's the thing. Perfetti has shown that he's very much capable of being a guy that makes a difference at the NHL level.
Yes.
Your point, though, is well taken. The consistency hasn't been there. And that is something that is often a challenge for younger players. And this is not unique to him at all. You know what brings out the best in players and get them a little more consistent? When there's a guy knocking on the door saying, hey, don't forget about me. So, I mean, I think that's just only a positive for the entire team right now. And listen,
Agreed.
I kind of expect that Chibrikov, in and around this week, once Ehlers is activated, probably finds himself back with the Moose.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I would bet money on is that this is not the last time he's up here this year. And depending on the health of the club, even if the club is healthy, if he continues to show what he's shown when he's been up for the past week with the Winnipeg Jets, I think he's very much a possibility that he would be in the lineup for the Winnipeg Jets when they're putting their best foot forward to win playoff games come game 83.
Oh yeah, and he'll be a part of it. He'll be a part of the push one way or another. Black Ace as soon as they can get him in there. I forget what the term is that they're using now, but what I like about him is his attitude, right? Like his attitude every time he comes in, he just seems to handle it. He doesn't look lost in it. When he got the first opportunity in that game against Vancouver last year, he didn't look lost. He looked ready to me, and then this time he came up and again he looked ready, and his play suggests that he looks ready. I'm trying to think of the last guy, Huss, and maybe you can, Sandberg is maybe the guy I'm thinking of this, where they brought him up and they put him into the NHL, and it was like, okay, he's ready. Like, this is an example of you have developed this guy really, really good, and you've got him right where he's knocking on the door, and then when he steps in, he's ready to go. Great job by the player, great job by the organization. That's what I'm seeing from Nikita Chibrikov as well. And again, this is just a sign of a really, really healthy organization, that when you lose guys, I mean, let's make no bones about this. I think what we've seen from the Jets the last little while, if we're being honest with ourselves, they're 4-5-1 in their last 10. They've, that dominant stretch of hockey that they had before. So I think our stats were, in the first 16 games of the year, they lost one game. In their last 16 games since, they're below 500, right? So there's things to be concerned about if you're looking at the Winnipeg Jets. But I think a lot of that stems from the loss of Sandberg, who is absolutely huge, and the loss of Ehlers, who just takes away a second layer of scoring on this team that is really tough to deal with. No doubt Nikita Chibrikov isn't coming in and making anyone forget that Nikolai Ehlers is out of the lineup. That's a really, really tough pill for the Winnipeg Jets to swallow. But I don't know the last time that I've seen the Winnipeg Jets so ready to have guys jump in the lineup and pop the way they have. And I do say that with the utmost respect, Huss, for guys like AJF and Toninato, who came in last year, Huss, and scored some big goals. I think Toninato had a game winner on one of his first games last year. So I want to make sure that I'm showing respect to those guys who have a very specific role and came in and played that role really well. But there's a difference between coming in and being a fourth line guy who's going to get a couple games and can come in and give you energy on the fourth line, pop a goal here or there, and a guy who comes into the top six and it's said, okay, you're one of the guys carrying the water. Get out there and carry it. Nikita Chibrikov has carried the water.
Hey, Rainey, always great having you on the program. It was a fun one with you and Ken talking lots of Line A and the power play after Saturday night's game. And, you'll need to get a nap in over the next couple of days because that'll be a K&R After Dark with the 2 West Coast games coming up this week. Hey, all the best of the season to you and your family, pal. Thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime. And make sure you say hi to my guy, Dennis. I love that guy. And I hope he knows on my last hockey night in Canada between Ottawa and LA, I took some information from him. I had someone reach out to try and get it, but I took it and I used it and I gave him credit for it on the show. He had a great line about something that was going on with LA. So love Dennis. You're lucky to have him on the show.
Hey, he's the Godfather. He's coming up right away. Thanks for doing this, pal. Always appreciate it.
Yeah, gotcha.
All right, there's Sean Reynolds, K&R late night tomorrow after that late one in San Jose, and then right back at it the next night at the Duck Pond down in Orange County in Anaheim. You heard right. Dennis is coming up next. Dennis Bernstein to the fourth period. Lots going on around the National Hockey League outside of Winnipeg that we want to get to. Just before we do that, though, a big happy holidays from our friends at Princess Auto. Proudly founded in Winnipeg, headquartered in Winnipeg, coast to coast now, but with 3 Manitoba locations to serve you. And with Christmas just around the corner, you all know that Princess Auto is the place to get the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. So if you have someone that likes to spend plenty of time out in the garage or the backyard, working on stuff, fixing things, or creating, get down to Princess Auto before the 25th. And Princess Auto gift cards, a great Christmas gift as well. You can, of course, go to the Panet Road location, Portage Avenue West, location out in Brandon, or shop online and get some ideas 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. I know many of you probably took in some Christmas parties and holiday festivities on the weekend, and that won't be changing heading into this weekend. But if you are going and maybe you have to bring a bottle or a gift and there's whiskey lovers, folks, before they're gone, get to your local Manitoba liquor marts and get the second issue of the Invitation Series, the one-time release of the Canadian Club Classic 18-year-old high proof. This elevated expression offers the well-known smooth, well-balanced taste of Canadian Club Classic, carefully aged and bottled at a higher proof for a full-bodied tasting experience. CC Classic 18-year-old high proof was just awarded gold at the 2024 International Wine and Spirit Competition. So whether it's for entertaining over the next few weeks, for either your own collection or as a gift to the whiskey lover in your family, get them before they're gone. Right now at Manitoba Liquor Marts, the Canadian Club Classic 18-year-old high proof from Canada's favorite Canadian whiskey, Canadian Club. And hey, I do want to give a big happy holidays and thank you to our friends at Wallace & Wallace, the fencing and overhead door specialists in town, serving residential and commercial customers since 1946. If your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, or if winter has done a number on your old one or is doing one right now, give them a call. They've got vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood fences. And if you need a new garage door for 2025, they've got the largest selection of overhead garage doors in town, one perfect to both match your home and add value to it at the same time. Give them a call, 452-2700. The Wallace & Wallace team will arrange a time to come out and give you a free estimate. You can also visit them at wallacefences.com or pop down to their showroom on Lowson Crescent off of Kenniston. All right. There is a lot going on around the league right now, and who better to talk about it with than our guy, Dennis Bernstein of the fourth period. Dennis, what's up? Best of the season to you, my friend.
You know, I came on right before Sean left, and I do want to say that you won't have two better-looking guests on your show probably all season. So I just wanted to pass a compliment back to Sean because we love Sean, we love you, and it's great to be on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Well, it's great. You know, Remis and I raise the bar so high every day. We're just looking for yes, other fellow models to come on and join us with it every day. Dennis, well, first off, I'll ask you about the team you cover most closely, but there's a couple hot spots in the league I want to get to.
Sure thing.
Kings have been really good the last few weeks, haven't they? They had sort of a lull a little earlier, but you know we saw them do a number on the Winnipeg Jets when the Jets were last in California. Yep. And it seems like, you know, while Vegas has played well and Edmonton's got their act together, the Kings are cruising right now.
Yeah, they are. One late after the last 10. And it's a microcosm. The Winnipeg game is what you're seeing now. They check and check and check and play defense. Their offense hasn't been great, but I'll tell you, the performance they put on Saturday afternoon at the Madison Square Garden, that was something. That was against, first of all, I was surprised that Quick didn't play. And granted, the Rangers are floundering, but they played great. They got offense from Turcotte, who's now on the top line with Kopitar and Kempe. They got a goal from Deneau. They got a goal from Quentin Byfield, who's been struggling all season. They played their best. And look, let's be real here. Jim Hill is a really good coach. Like, he's coached his team to understanding that, you have to play defense and check to win. And I know a lot of people rip Rob Blake when they saw Joel Edmondson. Look at Joel Edmondson's numbers. I think he's a plus 14. I know everybody doesn't like plus and minus. He's scored 4 goals. He's provided physicality. Darcy Kemper, I know that's not the ultimate payoff for what you got in Winnipeg in the Dubois deal, but he's 9-15 save percentage guy. This is a really good team. Now, do I think they're going to win the division? I don't. Unless they find some right shot help for the power play, which is really, I think it's 28th or something, they're going to struggle. So this is not a great offensive team, but they know how to check. They know how to play defense. They're getting good enough goaltending from both Kemper and David Rittich. And this is a team that should be in the mix. Look, I think they're a playoff team. I think the way it breaks down, Hutzel, you might agree, I think you'll get 4 teams from the Pacific and 4 from the Central for the postseason. So they should be comfortably in the playoffs. The question is where they're going to be seated. You see it away, Edmonton's coming on now. Nobody's surprised about that. Vegas will stay at the top of the division. They're deep. Jack Eichel's been an MVP candidate. Question on Stone, how much can he play? It's going to be an interesting run, but they had played very well for Jim Hiller. He's done a great job since he came in for Todd McClellan last season.
I don't disagree with you at all. In fact, I would be willing to bet that the top 4 in the Pacific right now, the top 4 in the Central, are going to be the 8 teams that we see in the playoffs right now. I mean, with all due respect to Calgary and the start that they've had, and Utah and the St. Louis Blues. Like, I don't see Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota, or Winnipeg not being in the mix, and I've got a hard time seeing anyone other than Vegas, LA, Edmonton, and the Vancouver Canucks being in it on the Pacific side of things. So there will be a lot of jockeying. But the Kings, we saw that game against Winnipeg, and that was a game that you can take to the playoffs and have success with right now, as long as you're getting the goals. Now, let's talk about the team that the Kings just played in the New York Rangers.
Yeah, sure.
They are one of the major fires going on right now in the NHL. Dennis, they have won 3 of their last 13 games. And those wins were over the Buffalo Sabres, who are on their own 10-game losing streak. We'll talk about them in a second. The Pittsburgh Penguins and the Montreal Canadiens. Yeah. They've traded their captain in the midst of threatening to waive him right now. We've seen longtime Rangers like Trouba and Chris Kreider have their names thrown out very publicly in trade talks, and it doesn't seem to be getting any better right now. How loud are the alarms in Manhattan right now around the Rangers, and what do you make of what Tris Drury has on his hands, which seems like a 5-alarm fire?
Yeah, it is. And I'll give full disclosure. I picked the Rangers to win the cup, so I'm extra pissed at them. Right? I feel really, really bad at this point. This team appears to be soft mentally. Like, because if it really affected you, the trade, because captains who get traded, right? And then, so the Trouba thing, that's it. And then the other trade rumors, I don't get it. Like, and the culprit number 1 is Mika Zibanejad, right? And the one concern I had about the Rangers was he really a 1C that can win a championship? He's proving in spades that's not the case. This is a fragile team right now. And Hustler, I get it. Sometimes you play well and lose. They're not playing well and losing. They're losing. It's as simple as that. The game in St. Louis yesterday, you look at a line score at the end of the game, say, 3-2 was close. They had a shot. They were first 2 periods, nothing. They offered nothing. They look like they're going through the motions in a preseason game. And of course, you're not trading Chris Kreider. Chris Kreider's making $6.5 million a year. He's a perennially 30-goal scorer. Where are you going to get the value back when your team's playing so bad to trade that player? That's not the issue. What's going to happen? If it's going to continue much longer, they're going to fire Laviolette. As much as I like him, as much as I don't think it's his fault, it's just that this team has not responded. And when it doesn't respond and they play like this, and you look at the blown assignments, the bad pinching, just the body language. I didn't realize this team was so frail that when they hit a bad patch, and Hustle, every team hits a bad patch in the season. It's 82 games, and they have not recovered from it, and it's troubling, and it's mystifying because there's so much talent on this team, but they can't get out of their own way right now.
Now, with all the smoke we've heard around potential deals, and listen, the Trouba one. Well, before we even talk about what they might do, I want to ask you about how that all went down. Is being taken by players and agents around the league. Like, we were on the program, and I said, "Wow, I mean, they're threatening." With all that we know, the reason why they gave him the no move, the family situation there. To threaten waiving him and then essentially putting a gun to his head and forcing him to accept a trade to the Ducks. I do wonder how that is, like, how other players, because everyone wants to play in New York until apparently you get there and you have to deal with some of the ways that they're running their operation. But in particular, I imagine the agents, who were very influential, probably not too impressed with the way that the Trouba situation in particular was handled. What are you hearing?
Yeah. And to going back to the Barclay Goodrow situation as well.
Exactly.
So, but when Trouba, when this started, he was a third pair defenseman, right? He wasn't like a top pair guy to look at. He's a bad guy in the room or anything like that. His effectiveness was on the third pair. Like, his game regressed. Barclay Goodrow's a bottom six player. So those two players, and I get the standing of the captain on the team, but that's what's going to put your team in a hole. That's what you don't like. Look, Hustler, I get it. Like, some players might not like it, but there is still a salary cap. And not everybody can go play in Los Angeles or Chicago or Winnipeg or New York, right? So that's it. So I'm just surprised, but I don't know what to do here, because, look, here's the deal. Like, you're not trading Shesterkin, obviously. You're not taking Lafreniere. Like, anybody else would be open for a trade, but you're a Stanley Cup contender. Like, you're supposed to, you were 2 wins away from what? From a Stanley Cup final. So I don't get it. I don't know what to do at this point in time. I think the one drastic move you would make right now, if this continues over the next couple of days, and they have some winnable games on the road too, I think they play in Nashville, is to let the coach go and wake this team up, because, getting rid of Goodrow didn't wake the team up. Getting rid of Trouba didn't wake the team up. This team is just not performing. And here's the problem with this team, Hustler. They're not a puck possession team. They're not a physically dominant team. What do? They get 24 shots on goal. They have exceptional offensive players. They score 4 goals. Shesterkin gets, 30 saves. You win the game. The formula's not working anymore, right? Can you change it in mid-season? I don't even know what to do. And the stuff with Brady Tkachuk, stop. I mean, that was floated for a reason, to try to wake the team up. But it's a mystery. It's concerning. And the most concerning thing for me, Hustler, is when you watch this team, the body language. Forget the mistakes on the ice. Forget the omissions and commissions errors that they make. Like, look at this. Look at their body language. It tells you everything that you don't want to see. And when that happens, I think the person that most screws is certainly going to be the coach.
I missed this. Have they named a new captain in the absence of Trouba?
No.
So I guess they're basically waiting on some guys to kind of step up and pull this team out of it.
Yeah, I would. Look, for me, it would be Chris Kreider. Like, unless you
he
really
might be traded next week, apparently.
Yeah, I don't get what's coming back. Like, Brady Tkachuk's not coming back. Like, Future is the first round pick for this team. What? I mean, I don't get it. The other one would be Panarin, but no, they have not. And I don't even think it's a leadership. Look, there's enough veterans on this team. Like, do you really need? And the age-old question, Hustler, how much is the C on somebody's jersey? Like, is it really that important in a room like that with guys making $12, $10, $11 million? I don't think so. The team has to play better. It's just, and the tough thing is, like yesterday in St. Louis, was Will Cully and Connor Mackey were your best players and led you the comeback? Come on. That's the huge. It's not even, I'd say sometimes it's a yellow flag, or sometimes it's a brown flag because it's red and yellow mixed. This is a red flag, and it's troubling to see, because I thought this team could do a lot of damage. Maybe they still can bounce back from that, because I keep going back to what Edmonton happened. But I just don't like the body language. It looks like they quit on the coach.
No, and those are red flags, and at that point, the GM might put up a white flag and decide that they need to do something. Well, a similar, maybe even worse situation is in Buffalo. They've lost 10 in a row. The Kevin Adams, was it a week or two ago, was talking about how they can't get anyone to go there. They don't have palm trees, and now the fans start bringing inflatable palm trees, and they're at war with the organization.
Right.
There's so much young talent on this team, Dennis. You got a veteran coach in Lindy Ruff that's come back that said this is the biggest challenge of his entire career, and that is saying something. I'd ask you how it could get this bad, but it's been this bad in Buffalo for a long time right now. Why isn't it better? And how do they move forward in the midst of another seemingly lost season?
Yeah, is talent there or is winning talent there? Because I'll submit to you, at the beginning of Kevin Adams' regime, he traded Jack Eichel and Sam Reinhart within 6 months of each other. And those, last time I checked, both those guys have rings on their fingers now. And I get it. Like, look, the Reinhart deal, they got a first-round pick in Devin Levi, which isn't bad. Did they have the right young talent on his team? And it's not the case. Lindy Ruff, I guess, if you thought the team should have been in the playoffs, and I always joke, because I've said this for, 13 years now. I say a novena for the Sabres fans every time I go to sleep because they didn't deserve any of this. So if they want to bring real palm trees to the game, I don't blame them. 13 seasons in a league where half the team makes the playoffs, you haven't made the playoffs, it's not good enough. Kevin Adams hasn't been a good enough general manager. It's as simple as that. His choices that he made didn't work out. So I don't even like Owen Power's a first overall pick. Hustler, is he really playing like a first overall pick? Was he playing like a mid-round pick or a second-round pick? There is a lot of talent, but this ain't fantasy hockey. Like if it was, maybe they have a really good team, and you paid a lot of guys early. You paid Power, you paid Dahlin. Now Dahlin's an exceptional player, but $11 million a year, you haven't won anything. It's showing me. I just think the mix of players is bad. And Tage Thompson had one fantastic year. Now he's come down to earth a little bit. I think it's a time to change. As opposed to what's going on in New York, I think you change the general manager. It's just he hasn't done a good job. But he's one of how many? Botterill before him. How many GMs have failed at this town? If you had a winning team, Hustler, do you think the town would support him? Have you watched the support the Bills get in that city?
Oh, my God. Like, that's
right?
what's such a tragedy about this. The fans in Buffalo are so starved. And we're not talking about a cup contender. I mean, how about a meaningful game in April?
Yes.
That is where we're at right now. And, Dahlin's the captain, a first overall pick. Owen Powan's there, a first overall pick. You've got young players like Dylan Cousins and Tage Thompson. They should be better. And yet they're just going in reverse right now. And you mentioned Kevin Adams. And this is really what it comes down to. Remember how puzzled we were when he got appointed the job in the first place? He was a former player, sure. Mm-hmm. He was working in another side of the office. Agreed. They brought him over, and it seems like he has the support of the Pagulas, which, listen, there is something that means something. The boss has your back, but at a certain point, how much longer can it go on? And there's no easy fix for this, though, especially when you've had more than a decade of misery and underachieving hockey.
But they did have a meeting this morning because they canceled availability. I think the Carrots will practice, and the message was, if you look to somebody says like Frank Saravelli, they believe in this team. They believe in the group of the players. They're going to keep them together. So there's no trades, and there's nothing really you can trade off this team any at this point in time. No move. You're not firing Lindy Ruff. You just brought him here. There's not another Jim Montgomery walking through the door after 20 games. You're going to hire him. So they believe in this team. I don't. They're the biggest tease. And here's the other thing, Hustler. They're the biggest tease in the NHL because every season, 4 points out, 2 points out, 1 point out. We almost made it. Okay, we're adding. We're going to change it up a little bit. We brought in Jason Zucker for some scoring. And it never works. And now they're regressing. And they're in the same boat as Detroit and Ottawa, although Ottawa looks to be doing something because Olmark's playing really, really good. It's the mix of these players in the organization. They've choices they've made. Look, you would make the trade Byron for Middlestat every time, but the team hasn't improved. It's as simple as that. And so that's that. You mentioned the blue line: Dahlin, Paterson, Byron, Power. Should you be fighting the Habs for the bottom of the division? No, you should be better. It's just the mix of players isn't working right now in Buffalo either.
I feel so bad for the fans there.
100%.
And you know what? There's a lot of people. A guy like Alex Tuck. Alex Tuck, embraced being a Sabre. He's from upstate New York. This is a guy that other teams would be salivating to have come onto their team right now. And, I just wonder how much rope, how much real ability Kevin Adams has to make significant deals to change up this roster. Mm-hmm. And how much he has, a rope from ownership that really handpicked him as their guy to take this thing forward, even without any experience.
Yeah, I think he's got a little bit more runway. I really do, because of this meeting this morning. Because you think they would look, the owner's coming in, Pagula came up, thinking, okay, there weren't any changes. The messaging is there is not going to be any changes.
Yeah, give us a quick rundown on that, because the owner came in today. I saw that their practice was canceled. They had a big meeting.
Practice was cactus. There was no media availability, and the understanding I have is that, all right, we believe in this group. And it's only 30 games in, and you still have time to make the playoffs. So we're not going to make any big changes. Nobody's being fired. Nobody's being traded. And the thing about it, Hustler, is, like, I get, like, okay, there aren't palm trees in Buffalo. But if you won, people would go. I remember when nobody wanted to go to Florida, right? That team had 6,000 people in the building. But the weather was nice, but nobody wanted to go there because you didn't win. People don't want to go a place because you don't win. It's as simple as that. And I think that's the problem. It's not that there's palm trees or there's taxes or whatever excuse. It was a really bad look for Kevin Adams. He should have said that, because now you're kind of calling out, the town and the people and your own misgivings, where he should own and say, look, I haven't done a good enough job. I got to fix this somehow. And if it takes moving around some players, I'll do that. Right. Nobody's really been threatened up there, like about their jobs and stuff like that. There's not the angst that there is in downstate New York about being traded, because it's a smaller market. It's just a situation where I think the GM has more rope. But if they miss the playoffs again, like, unless Terry Pagula sells the team, which I don't think is happening, he actually might be the GM next season too. It's as simple as that. Because I don't. First of all, there's no standard. There's a standard in New York with the Rangers, like cup or bust. What's the standard in Buffalo? Make the playoffs, play okay, get 81 points. The expectations are far lower, and they can't even achieve that. So it's an organizational failure. Going back to my original point, half the teams make the playoffs. 13 seasons without the playoffs. That's a failure with respect to ownership, because you have to identify the right people to put you in a position to win games and make the playoffs. So I necessarily won't even put it on Kevin Adams. Yeah, Pagula's been patient with Adams, because I think it's been 4 years since he's been the GM. But at some point, you got to pull the cord and say, okay, this group of players. It depends how bad it is, Hustler. If they do another thing where they get 90 points and miss by 2, I think it's going to be status quo. They have to have. It would be better for the organization to have a worse season, so you can make the excuse, okay, we're going to move on from Kevin Adams, blah blah blah.
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, when he had the presser and mentioned, we don't have palm trees here and the taxes. I mean, those were just basically playing out the excuses in public on the table. And it's not like it's not true. It's the same thing here in Winnipeg. You would never in a million years hear anyone from the organization say something like that publicly, even if they were frustrated that a guy has them on a no trade list. I mean,
sure.
You know how many times that's happened that hasn't come out? Because what are you going to do about it? You're in the NHL. You have to deal with the cards that have been dealt to you, and you need to make the best of it and find a way to be competitive. But
Hustle, Buffalo was never located in Florida. They didn't pick up Buffalo and move it to Florida. You knew that when you got the job. You knew that forever. It's not that going in. It's like, oh, we're set up. We're not set up. Like, you walked in and say, oh, we're going to make this team a playoff team, make it a contender. With that understanding that it isn't a destination for a lot of players. You know what makes it a destination? Win games, get to the playoffs, go on a run. Right, because you have the requisite talent. We talked about it. It's not a talent gap necessarily. It's an organizational gap, because you can't pick the right parts to meld in with this talent to support players, and you don't wind up winning enough games and missing the playoffs.
Dennis Bernstein's with us from the Fourth Period. Make sure to check out thefourthperiod.com for more of Dennis and Dave and the whole gang's work over there. Back to your neck of the woods, Southern California. Yeah. The Anaheim Ducks have made a few moves. Fill us in on where we're going to see the Ducks on Wednesday. Jacob Trouba's in. Cam Fowler is out. A ton of talented young players, but actually behind the San Jose Sharks. Not by much right now. They've lost 3 less games. But are things coming around for the Ducks right now? And what was behind taking on the full value of the Trouba contract when a lot of people thought that was going to be very difficult to move anywhere in the league?
Yeah, on the trade, I don't know. Remember when the Sharks traded when the Red Wings traded Jake Wallman, and they had to put in a second-round pick to get him to San Jose, and he's played well? Right? That's the opposite of what happened. Like, full ride, we're not retaining any money, and we get back a player who's been a mid-round pick, the defenseman, the Finnish defenseman, and they get a pick. Here's the thing. Anaheim wants to go in a different direction. They want a little bit more edge, so now they have Gudas and Trouba. So keep your head up if you're a third-line player going into the Anaheim zone. I get that. Cam Fowler, another guy who came up, I think, remember Corey Perry got bought out, just games from his 1,000th game? Same thing with Fowler. I think he played 993 games as an Anaheim Duck. Maybe they're adverse to celebrating Ducks getting 1,000 games in the Ducks uniform. But here's the real reason why they were traded. The edge thing, but they've got Jackson Lacombe, they've got Pavel Mintyukov, and they've got Owen Zellweger on the left side. You can make that trade. The retention, look, great trade for Army. You get Cam Fowler at $4 million a year, one more year, fine. He's 31 years old, 32 years old. That's fine. And they're so banged up on the blue line in St. Louis with respect to Leddy and Krug. So they want their young to play. They believe that Fowler, and that's why the rumors on Fowler for now going over one season. They wanted to make room for these young kids to play on the left side. It's as simple as that. It's an organizational decision. That one I have no problem with. The Trouba thing, I get it. Maybe you want more leadership on a young team. Now, to answer your question about the team overall, they had 59 points last year. They're a better team. San Jose's a better team this year, too. The bottom of the Pacific is better, right? But I think Mason McTavish has 4 goals. Zegras, I think, has 3, and he's been banged up as well. Leo Carlson's been really good, but not productive. And then you have the veterans like the Killorn signing. Was that really necessary? What are you going to do with Frank Vetrano? Because I know you could get probably at least a second-round pick for that player at the trade deadline. It's a team still in flux. I'm not sure that's the right coach. I'm not sure why he's there. I get its structure, but he is a difficult coach. He's a tough coach. And you know what happens to tough coaches with these 20-some-year-old kids now? They reject it. It's as simple as that. So they're a better team, but all the prospects they've talked about, I always say, prospects are cute, championships are cuter, right? So you can talk about how much I went through it in LA with all the prospects they've had and all this, and Byfield's kind of emerged, but he's regressed. Turcotte's trying to find a way, but he's got 4 lifetime goals in the NHL. It's great to have prospects and growing up, but at some point in time they got to graduate. And they haven't graduated yet. Mason McTavish is a 3rd overall pick, and he could be a really good player. It just hasn't happened for this team yet. They have a goaltender in Dostal. So the next move, Hustler's got to be to trade John Gibson. That's got to be the next move. So there's some improvement there. But I think, certainly I think Pat Verbeek's behind the curve right now with respect to how this team progressed under his stewardship.
Yeah, we all thought that maybe John Gibson might end up in Colorado, and then they went and made that trade with the San Jose Sharks, who the Jets are going to visit tomorrow night. And to me, the story about the Sharks is all about Macklin Celebrini. You compare his season to Connor Bedard's season, and listen, Celebrini, and I know you've seen him a little bit more than we have right now, double digits in goals and assists, just south of 20 points in 21 games. How much has his addition to the organization kind of energized San Jose, and are they ahead of where you thought they might be at this point so early in his career? And obviously Will Smith turning pro.
And he got into a scrap celebrating. So I would say after that happened, I give him the C automatically. That's it. He's
18.
No fear. This, the toughest thing to do, and I think you see it a little bit with Bedard, is deferring to your teammates when you're a rookie. This kid does not defer, Hustler. He doesn't. He's got a shot he's taking, and he's not looking to pass the Taro to Foley or Granlund when he was healthy. He's looking to shoot the puck. This kid's a killer. And with Will Smith, the future's really bright. And remember, this team started 0-7-2, just like last season. They weren't good, right? And they traded both goaltenders. It's a very intriguing team because Mike Greer was aggressive. He went out and got to Foley. He kept Granlund. He made some moves. He got Jake Wallman. He picked up Goudreau. So this is a better team. I watched them play twice against the Kings. They beat the Kings twice. And they beat them in the third period both times. And that's a team that's really good in the third period. If you're a Sharks fan and you haven't been going to games, start going again. This team 2 or 3 years from now, Hustler, I want to see. And forget about Askarov, who's going to come up and start being the number 1 goaltender at some point. So a very difficult rebuild, right, for this team. Because remember, Logan Couture is still out, still injured. You got out from under the Hurdle trade, which is good, I think, for that organization. This is a team that is surprising the way they're playing, but when you look at the actual names on the back of the uniforms, they got talent. And it's as simple as that. And they respond to Worofsky. So sometimes it's not the best thing to go get the biggest name coach. This is a guy who was an assistant who they really like. He's the youngest coach in the league. It's an exciting, fun. The games that the Jets play against the Sharks are going to be fun, exciting games because both teams have so much skill on their teams.
Well, we'll look forward to that one tomorrow night. Hey, before we go, I mean, when it comes to trade discussion, trade rumors, I know we talked about the Rangers and we talked about Buffalo for obvious reasons, just because of how down and out they are right now. But is there a team or two that you, Dave, and the gang are kind of looking at that might be poised to make a move? Because we have seen a little bit of player movement, albeit maybe not at the top of the lineup, but at the periphery as of late in the league.
I know Barry Trotz made great moves in the summer, allegedly. But
now we raised the
allegedly
banner, off-season champions.
Yeah. He allegedly has to trade for a center now, right? O'Reilly got hurt. They didn't have a center. Novak's on the fourth line. That would be like, so when you hear maybe Buffalo, maybe thinking about trading to Dylan Cousins or whatever, like that would be the team that would need him. Like, and I keep drawing this parallel. You're a Chiefs fan. Imagine building a team, an NFL team, by wide receivers. And that's what this team did, because guess what? Hustler, all the moves that people look, and I get it, like start of the season, 3 40-goal scorers in the lineup, like Forsberg, Marchessault, and Stammer. But now you have to ask yourself, was Kucherov responsible for Stammer the last couple of seasons? Was Jack Eichel responsible for Marchessault in Vegas scoring 40 goals, 35 goals? It looks that way. And when you have the lack of depth at center to facilitate and get these guys the puck, they don't score. You look bad as a general manager, and it looks like you built the team the wrong way. So I think it'd be incumbent upon Barry Trotz to find a more quality at center, because right now, they're last in the West. Like, that's not acceptable for what all you did. And you mentioned joking about raising the banner. That would be the one team that has to do something, right? The other teams that are out of it, you don't expect them to contend. Like Chicago was never going to contend. San Jose wasn't. Anaheim was. Nashville was. So if anybody's going to be hitting the panic button, it's got to be Barry Trotz. And he knows what's wrong with this team. They don't have enough at center. I don't know how you do it, but I'm calling all 31 other GMs if I'm Barry Trotz and saying, okay, what do you have at center for me?
Dennis, always great having you on the program, my friend. Fill people in on what's cooking at the fourth period as we get into the holiday season.
Sure. We're starting this feature called Game Day. So every day it's obviously sponsored by some gambling websites. So we're going to do pre-game videos every day with me, Dave, Ryan Payton. Hot Stove Saturdays, I guess I'll do it from Central Time. It would be 10 to noon Central Time on SiriusXM. You've been a great host on the shows. And just go to fourthperiod.com as we get closer to the trade deadline. We have the pulse on the what's going on in the trade market as well.
You let me know when you want to talk some Jets. I'll be happy to pop on, as I always am, and love having you on the program today, Dennis. Thanks for doing this. Say hi to the fellas.
We'll do. It's great being on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Thanks for the time, Hustler.
Later, pal. There is Dennis Bernstein down in SoCal, and the Jets are heading to, I guess, Northern California first, practicing right now. Sharks tomorrow night, 9:30 p.m., and then the Anaheim Ducks on Wednesday before coming back, traveling, getting a practice in on Friday, and then the Minnesota Wild coming to town on Saturday night. All right. Listen, we've got lots more to get to. We've got to talk some NFL and get to your fan feedback. Right now, though, first, a big cheers to our friends all ready for the holidays down on Bannatyne Avenue, our friends at Little Brown Jug.
In day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, yes, big cheers to our friends at Little Brown Jug who are ready for the holidays. You can pop down and see them, and great place to meet with some friends for a beer around the holidays down at the brewery and tap room in the Exchange District. Boston Pizza's ready for the holidays, ready for a couple late-night games to welcome Jet fans in the next couple nights. But right now, as you get ready to take care of those Christmas lists, How about this? $10 bonus gift card with every $50 Boston Pizza gift card purchase. Now, that's a 20% bonus. But check this out. If you've got a very long list or you have an office to buy for, if you buy $1,000 in Boston Pizza gift cards, you'll get an additional 10% free, which means a 30% bonus on gift card orders over $1,000. And of course, BP folks can use for enjoying some drinks and eats in the sports bar, in the dining room, and check out that great new holiday menu they've got, including the spicy shrimp fettuccine and the ribbon wing duo. And if you've been delinquent in making plans for a little get-together at the holidays, BP's a great place to have your holiday party. You can try that new holiday menu in the dining room, have a casual party in the sports bar, or still time to get the BP catering team to set up and serve at your office. Pick a player contest in full effect tomorrow and Wednesday at your local Boston Pizza. Great supporters of the Jets and, of course, Winnipeg Sports Talk. And we are now counting down the days until Christmas, gang. And if you still have many unchecked boxes on your list, if you got sports fans on that list, take care of all of them with one stop at Royal Sports, Winnipeg's preeminent sports superstore for over 40 years. You got Jet fans on your list, take care of it all. Jerseys, hats, toques, hoodies, you name it, they've got it. Amazing bomber gear, including many exclusives that you haven't seen anywhere else. A brand new hat wall featuring many unique Winnipeg Jets hats you won't find anywhere else, and hats for all teams in the National Hockey League, not to mention the NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, international soccer, the biggest hockey section in town, tons of skates, including for beginners. If you just want to get a pair of blades to get onto the river this winter, it's all there at Royal Sports waiting for you. And make sure to check out all the cool stuff on the King's Skate, Snow, and Surf side, including their Yeti and Herschel sections. Great for holiday gift giving. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Check them out on Instagram at Royal Sports Pembina, Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. All right, as we bring Michael Remis in here, I do want to get to our why not question of the day before we get into the National Football League stuff from yesterday, and ask you about Nikita Chibrikov. And Sean and I touched on this a little bit at the end of our conversation. Nikolai Ehlers is back. Let's assume he's back over these next couple days. What do you do with Nikita Chibrikov? Does he go back to the Moose? Do you find another spot for him in the lineup? Do you keep him with the team for a few days and see how things goes? Let us know in the chat, short-term and long-term for Nikita Chibrikov. That's our why not question of the day for Not AutoCorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. We'll let you all give your thoughts in the chat, and then we'll come with a little bit of fan feedback for Fans First in a minute. Remis, what do you think about Chibrikov? I mean, he's certainly answered the bell and played very well in his limited time since his call-up.
Yeah, he's played very well. So well, Hasse, referring to his line as the Chibrikov
line, yes.
Although I noticed, I think Murat was saying the Nemestikov line in the questions to Scott Arniel, but he's played really well. He's produced. He's brought some energy. He can play on the power play. I don't think you could send him down. I think he's played well enough, Huss, that it'd be strange to send him down right away. But what if you worked him in and gave Morgan Barron a break? I know Morgan Barron is a fast skater. He can forecheck. He's played, but he hasn't scored a goal on a goalie this year, Huss. And you kind of have to produce. And at a certain point, I think Chibrikov's earned a bit of a longer look. And I do kind of agree, like, this play isn't going to continue. There's going to be some kind of drop-off where maybe he falls back to earth, but he's looked good. He's deserved an opportunity, and, you know, like, what kind of impact can he make at the fourth line playing 10 minutes? I'm not sure. Like, he's playing with, you know, some skilled players in Nemestikov and Perfetti, but he's definitely earned a bit of a longer look. We'll see how he does these two games, but, you know, is that an option? Because he is a guy. He does have a bit of an edge to his game, Huss, and he's shown he can produce in the limited action.
Yeah, like listen, I mean, we're always so tied into recency bias, and he has had, you know, a couple good games. I mean, he scored a goal against the Vegas Golden Knights. I don't remember what the numbers were on there. It did seem like they didn't have the puck very much that night. And again, that's not on him. But you know, it's interesting when you ask this question, the varying answers you get. We're going to get to fan feedback for Fans First right now. If you are, you have to keep him in the lineup. Make sure to answer the other side of that. Okay, well, how do you keep him in the lineup? And who's out of the lineup, because we're not just adding extra roster spots or extra forward spots. With every addition comes a subtraction. So we've got some good stuff coming in here. Let's get to fan feedback, courtesy of Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market. And the best part about Fans First, as opposed to every other one of those sites, no fees, period. What you see is what you pay, and the best customer service as well for season ticket holders or ticket holders that need to move a couple of tickets. All right, to fan feedback we go. I mean, SK always one for a hot take. How is this a question, Huss? Not a good question. Anyone who knows hockey keeps Chibi in the lineup. Any other response is all caps wrong. Well, SK, with all due respect, you've had many wrong takes in the past, as much as I love you. So you got to answer that. Okay, so he's in the lineup. Who is out? And, you know, Remis just brought up Morgan Barron. But as Snack Toba mentions, Barron, a penalty killer, spends a big time. And you even look at the line, like just look at Saturday's game. Like, this is not like we've got a fourth line playing for the Winnipeg Jets that doesn't contribute and doesn't play some significant minutes. Everybody in that game, minus Rasmus Kupari, who was just a couple of seconds short of 10 minutes, was, you know, well into double digits in ice time. I'm just going to pull that back up right now because, you know, you have a player like Morgan Barron who admittedly offensively has not done a lot this year, but I would argue that he's been a pretty big part of a line that has been as good of a fourth line as we've had in Winnipeg in a very, very long time. Like Barron on the weekend played 12-23, played 301 on the penalty kill, a perfect penalty kill that was 4 for 4 on the weekend, and a guy that also has, you know, some size to his game. Not that, I mean, it really, I shouldn't say that. I mean, he plays a relatively rugged game, very good on the forecheck. Now, this is not taking anything away from Nikita Chibrikov because I think that he's not as big as Barron. I think he's ferocious on the forecheck. I think he is not afraid of anyone. But again, you know, are you ready to dump a Barron for a guy like Chibrikov? Eric K, can Chibi play well on the same side that Barron does? Yeah, Scott Westman, keep Chibrikov, wave Helly. Eric K, no way they can take Iaffello out. 100% on that. Chibi and Coughlin down on the roster. Well, I mean, listen, that's fine on the roster if you're willing to expose Dylan Coughlin and, you know, whatever. I mean, 8 defensemen's probably a lot to have. But I'm just saying, if you're going to be playing him and Nikolai Ehlers is back, I mean, what about what Sean had to say? Listen, I have no beef with the way Cole Perfetti's been playing. And I think actually he's had a bit of a jump to his game, you know, with a young guy coming up from the Moose making an impact that Chibrikov has. But, you know, do you move that somewhere else? Let's just see. SK says Perfetti out for Chibrikov. And listen, that is what Reynolds had suggested. And well, I certainly don't think his play on the weekend would have deserved that. You know, maybe that's the sort of conversation that we're having. Let us know in the chat. Fan First, fan feedback brought to you by fansfirst.ca, your favorite resale site in the city for Winnipeg tickets and more. By fans, for fans, no fees. I'll tell you what, I think it's a good problem to have right now with a young guy that came up and played so well. I mean, we could have been having the same situation or conversation with Brad Lambert, but if Brad Lambert had really popped at the center position, I think you're then looking for using the Nemetsnikov somewhere else. The thing about Chibrikov, Remis, that I'll go back to is that it's not like he is just a top 6 player. I mean, I think he sort of was projected to be more of a middle 6 guy that could absolutely play 3rd or 4th line minutes. And the versatility of Chibrikov, I think, gives Scott Arniel and the coaching staff a few more options if they did want to keep him around and give him a little bit more run the way that he's been playing.
Yeah, I'll have to say, I did mention Bear, but then you'd have to send someone down, assuming Ehlers, and maybe you look to send the easy option would be to send down one of your defensemen. I mean, you have Dylan Coghlan on the roster, and he's not really playing. Or
Played one game.
I guess David Gustafsson, he hasn't played much as well, and I don't think he's getting claimed. So that would be the pick. But yeah, I think he's shown that he can play in the second line role. But in terms of being a middle 6 guy, he could slot in there too. And you've seen the skills. He's playing second power play. One thing you mentioned, Barron, may not be putting the points, but he does play a big role on the power play. But I think if he's scoring, see if you can extend his stay longer. And if he gets into a bit of a slump, then you can say, hey, you know what, this is the easy option to send down. But if he's playing well and he's doing the right things and he's getting chances, yeah, keep him up. See what you have there. And I think Kevin Kowalik agreed with me in the chat. He said, play the hot hand. And, if someone needs a breather, as we've talked about, the schedule here, yeah, give him a breather and you can rotate him in and out. And, hey, if he, again, slows down, you always have the option there. Doesn't have to go through waivers. You can just send him down. But it's been a nice surprise. We tried Lambert, didn't have a lot of results in terms of on the score sheet. You put Nemestikov back at center. They have the Russian language connection, and it seemed to have worked out so far. He had chance, didn't score, Huss. A lot of jokes about his scoring drought now that he's gone 1 game without scoring after scoring in his first 3. But I thought he had chances and was close, and it was Nemestikov at the end there.
I love the way Chibrikov goes to the net. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the way he scored his goals. And I was in the end zone. I was in 312. As opposed to my usual 316 or lower bowl on the weekend with a friend. And, so we're sort of like right in the end zone, if you will, not as much on the corner. And man, Chibrikov, it's like, a shark smells blood in the water. And I mean, just kind of goes right there. And listen, I mean, you have to have that level of, ferociousness to your game, especially at that size, to be able to go to where the goals are scored. And, he has done that so far. And listen, I will say this. We're at game 30 right now. And I absolutely meant it when I said it to Sean that I think Chibrikov is going to be with the club after the trade deadline. And depending on what moves are made by Cheveldayoff and what is brought in and what has to go out, I think he's absolutely a possibility. Probably the most likely player, if you're including Brad Lambert and anybody else with the Moose, the most likely guy to potentially have a piece of an opening night lineup for the playoffs. But I don't think it's a bad move if when Ehlers is healthy to get Chibrikov back with the Manitoba Moose, knowing that he has made a statement with the way that he's played. And I think the coaches will be able to make it very clear that if there are guys that are getting off their game or aren't doing what they're asking for, they've got someone that is ready to jump in and do exactly that. And we just saw it with Nikita Chibrikov. I mean, it's not like it's a rush. The team is playing very well. And I will remind everyone that minus these last 3 games that Chibrikov is in, the guys that are in the top 12 of the forward group have been a big part in putting this team at the top of the NHL standings when it comes to points and wins so far this year. So to me, there's no obvious spot of a guy that hasn't been pulling his weight right now. And it's a credit to Chibrikov that we're even having this conversation right now, Remis, with the impact that he's made in the last week.
Yeah, as a young player, and I like what Sean said. In the past, they just call up someone to play 4th line. And Tornado did come in for a stretch, I think it was 2 years ago, where he was like 5 games. He had like 4 points or something, including...
Axel did last year as well.
Yeah, but this is a different where it's not a veteran guy, it's a prospect. He was leading the Moose in scoring, and you plop him in and see what he can do, and he certainly excelled. I mean, he's a second-round draft pick, 50th overall, back in 2021. He was with the Moose for 70 games last year, 47 points. This year, 13 and 19. So he's got 3 points in 3 games. you're playing two teams right now who are at the bottom of the standings. I mean, keep it going. And we do have the practice update, and here, I sent it to you on X.
Here, pull that in just 1 sec. I'm just going to get to a couple more of these comments.
Sure.
Listen, Julian the Bossy, Remo, hard to put lack of points all on Lambeau considering the state of the team's play during his stint. Not entirely unfair. They weren't particularly good. But again, when you're coming in, from the minors and getting your chance to play, standing out, doing all those things, creating some things, especially in that role, is important. And Chibrikov has done that. Darren Dupuis still pisses me off. We kept Stanley and didn't sign Dylan, and Dylan wanted to stay. Go figure. Fair, I guess, in some ways. Partly, I think they wanted to give Dylan Sandberg the opportunity to graduate to that spot, and I think that's been a real success. And obviously, there's some tough decisions when it comes to the salary cap for what Brendan Dillon earned on that next contract and how long you would have to sign him for. So, kind of all went into that. All right, what's the latest out of practice there, dude?
Oh yeah, here. Shout out to Mitch Clinton, Ken, and Mike, who do go on every road trip, not heading on this 2-gamer. So we are relying on Mitch Clinton. Shout out to him. I got a lot of Twitter action actually over the weekend for my clip of Mitch calling the DeMello penalty from Friday. And then I tweeted out actually the beginning of Saturday's game. It was like Brendan Gallagher pretty much did the same play and tripped a Jet. Of course, no call. Sometimes you never know when they're going to call and why. It's a bit of a crapshoot sometimes. Anyways, here's from Mitch. Jets head coach Scott Arniel says today's skate was just the next step in the process for Gustafsson, who was in a yellow non-contact, and Ehlers, who was in a regular jersey. There's still things taking day by day. I wonder if they're bringing they're bringing Ehlers on the trip. Is he going to get into a game at some point? Or are those guys like, hey, you're going to California? We just had a week where it was minus 20 outside. Get me on this plane out of here. But I think part of it is you want to be, you're still part of the team. You want to be with the guys.
Ehlers is in a regular jersey. Ehlers is an option for tomorrow. I'll put it this way. I'll tell you right now, the fact that he's skating in the regular jersey today, I'll be surprised if he's not in at least one of these games. Now, they might give him an extra day, but I would be surprised if we don't see him in the lineup until Saturday against the Minnesota Wild. But again, guess we'll find out a little bit more tomorrow. And for the time being, Nikita Chibrikov is with the club, but when Nikolai Ehlers is activated from IR, there will need to be a corresponding move. And as far as today's skate was the next step in the process for Ehlers and Gustafsson, and they're taking things day by day, is a very nice way of saying, I'm not telling you.
Yeah, I mean, Arniel has had some good ones where he's like, I think they asked him last week, like, what was your game plan? He's like, I'm not telling you that. What are you, crazy? So,
get the whiteboard out?
That's why I always want to do those press conferences, Huss, where you can find creative ways of telling them, you're not going to answer their question. Patrick Laine did that press conference where he mentioned there's like so many microphones in front of him that you see all them. I mean, it was all the Montreal media coming. I couldn't believe the number. We don't see that here that often, but it's got to be pressure to perform, and he delivered a great routine with the Patty Flu line.
Yeah, listen, he came, he charmed some people, reminded everyone that he's still a hell of a player. A lot of, it was a really cool moment. You weren't at the game, were you? Were you there?
No, I was watching. I was watching this.
So
yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying during the anthem, it's just the anthem. It's a one anthem game, so it just sort of starts, and they panned over and did a close-up shot of Laine during the anthem, and a huge, huge ovation. And it wasn't just the Habs fans that were there. I would suggest it was probably more the Winnipeg Jet fans giving a nice little welcome back to Winnipeg, and great to see him on the ice before then going and cheering on the Jets, who, were full marks for the win. Hellebuck was great. He got the first star, and as he said afterwards, no flu today and no goals for Patrik Laine. Hopefully he'll score plenty in games not against the Winnipeg Jets moving forward.
I did enjoy the anthem. I always enjoy when Soul Bear does the anthem. Big Soul Bear guy.
Yeah, listen, Soul Bear, I think I would have him right up there on my Jets anthem power rankings. The one thing that didn't go so well, which is maybe more on Jet fans than anything, but, it was Montreal, so he did the English-French version.
Yeah.
No one knew when to True North was because that was the French verse. It was probably the quietest True North ever in the arena before the game. But anyways, it was a fun night, nice win. The Jets get 5 out of 6 after dropping the first one against Columbus, and now off to San Jose and Anaheim the next couple of days. Remo, listen, we got to get to the Cool Bet lines. We'll do that in just a minute. Don't forget, tomorrow night is the next edition of the Lock Shop Poker Tourney with WST and EST. We got some bounties that you can win by knocking out the likes of myself and Dustin Nielsen, and some great prizes as well. Go to coolbet.com. You'll see at the top poker. Download the poker app. And then when you get in there, just go to tournaments and search Lock Shop or Lock. It'll come up. Get your entry in there tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll get the poker tourney going on at 9. And then the hockey game. Puck drops around just after 9:30. So a nice little poker and hockey night for Lock Shoppers and WSTers tomorrow. I hope we'll see you there. Listen, before we get to the lines of these, I think we have 3 games in the NHL tonight and a doubleheader of Monday night football, albeit at the same time. That was quite the day yesterday in the National Football League, Remis. I mean, I guess we should start with the crazy shootout between the Bills and the Detroit Lions. And how about the performance of Josh Allen coming back from that, putting up 42 on the road and losing with becoming only the second team to beat the Lions so far this year in a game that had a ton of offense. And as you almost expect when the Lions are playing, some absolutely insane, mind-bending decisions by Dan Campbell.
Love Dan Campbell. Love the energy. Would run through a wall for the guy, Hustler. But yes, when you're watching him with Dan Campbell, whether it's the aggressiveness on 4th down, leaves you questioning things. But yesterday it was going for an onside kick very early.
12 minutes left. Down 10.
I guess very early is even an understatement. I think the recovery rate with the new onside kick where you have to declare before, you can't be like, was it the Saints in the Super Bowl on Peyton Manning? You can't do the surprise onside kick and catch them off guard. You're going to tell them, hey, we're doing this onside kick. You guys get your hands team out there. 7% recovery rate. So your chances of getting it so low, it's almost not worth it. But I guess he felt like their defense wasn't stopping Josh Allen, and it was a last resort. It's something you do a bit later in the game.
There's better than a 7% chance of having Allen make a mistake, somebody drop a fumble, the guy returning the kickoff, dropping the ball, or just your defense stepping up and getting a stop. It has to be better than 7%, even with the guys that they had out yesterday. I didn't get that one. I thought it was absolutely reckless, but I've said this about Dan Campbell before, and I'm with you. I love the guy. I love his energy. I love his passion. But I don't love his decision-making in a lot of cases right now. And I got to tell you, if you're a Viking fan right now, you got to be fired up. The Bills did you a big favor yesterday. You got the Bears at home tonight. It's sold out US Bank Stadium. Everyone's going to be in white tonight. The Vikings are going to be in the full white color rush unis, which should be interesting. If Minnesota wins this game, Remis, they are tied with Detroit at the top of the division. Now, Detroit does have the tiebreaker because they beat Minnesota earlier this year, but the final game of the season is between Minnesota and Detroit. And wouldn't that be amazing if the 17th game of the year, head-to-head, was not only for the NFC North title, but for the number 1 seed in the bye?
Yeah, the Vikings. I mean, who would have thought this? When McCarthy gets injured, you have Sam Darnold, kind of been a journeyman quarterback, although was a high pick and really led them to this incredible record. You have Addison emerging as a receiver, and you have JJ. I did not think you'd see this kind of season from the Vikings. Certainly optimism when you're playing the Bears tonight. It's amazing to me how good this NFC North division is. You saw the Packers just lay the smack down on the Seahawks yesterday.
Green Bay is no joke.
Yeah, that defense. I was listening to the radio. Sam Howell actually had pretty good numbers for Washington last year. I mean, he had series where he couldn't even get rid of the ball, and their defense looks legit. So this NFC North, very tough. And what it would be if the Vikings could pass the Lions, but watch out for the Packers. Defense looking strong. Jordan Love, got injured early. He's looking very legit as well. And Josh Jacobs, I mean, running backs coming over from bad teams to good teams. You saw with Saquon with Philadelphia, but no one's really talking about Josh Jacobs, who's having a very nice season as well with Green Bay.
Yeah, Derrick Henry with the Ravens.
Yeah, Henry's the other one.
Been an amazing season for running backs that didn't get the deal they thought they deserved from their present teams, going to new spots. And Jordan Love, the entire Green Bay team, awesome. And listen, Philly is legit, as much as I hate to admit it. Their defense is a problem. The offense can kind of go up and down. We'll see how much they can rely on that passing game going against great defenses, but they did it yesterday against Pittsburgh. That was a big win for Philly. And right now, I mean, to me, the East, and we shouldn't maybe disrespect the Bucs. The Buccaneers, they had that 4-game losing streak, but they lost to the Ravens, the Chiefs, the 49ers, and they were all really close games. They went in to LA and put an absolute whooping on the Chargers. Now, the Chargers are pretty banged up right now. Justin Herbert is, but Baker Mayfield is dealing. He looks great. And now with that loss by the Seahawks yesterday and the injury to Geno Smith, the Rams are very much back after that big win against the Niners on Thursday night. Yeah, there's Eric Kay talking about Baker Mayfield. One thing we have to talk about, though, Remis, is the most inexcusable and stupidest move a pro athlete can do. And it happened not once but twice yesterday. The old drop the ball in celebration before you go across the goal line. Now, it happened in Cincinnati early on. It didn't cost them, but it may have, in fact, ended the Indianapolis Colts season. Jonathan Taylor, their veteran running back, up 7, cruising in for a touchdown that would have made it 20-6, drops the ball. It goes in for a touchback. And from that point on, it was all Denver. Indy never recovered. If they had won that game, they would have had a 53% chance of making the playoffs. They lose, and it is a 7% chance. I mean, inexcusable doesn't even begin to describe it, especially from a veteran player like Jonathan Taylor. I still can't believe that. And imagine having him in fantasy in the playoffs and losing a game because of that. I'm sure it happened thousands of times yesterday.
Oh, I saw some guy post a picture of his parlay with like anytime touchdown score, and he would have won like $4,000, but had Jonathan Taylor as the only one that didn't hit. And it was a defensive player for Cincinnati, Huss. Let me just pull up his name so we can appropriately shame him. I think it was Battle on the Bengals. I was watching that game, and tried to switch hands before you're going to the end zone. Jordan Battle recovered a fumble and is approaching the end zone and drops the ball. I don't understand how these guys don't make sure. It seems to be the most easiest common sense thing to do, Huss. When you have the ball and you're going towards the goal line, make sure you cross it before you drop the ball. Like Deshaun Jackson was like the first person to do this on Monday Night Football, where he did the casual celebration and just dropped it. And we called him an idiot. We shamed him. But I think he looks less stupid because seemingly everyone is doing it now. I don't know why you can't just make sure you're crossing
Tyson
the line.
Tyson said in the chat, and he's right, it's not even a good celebration when done legally. Like, oh, great, you got in and dropped the ball in the end zone. Fantastic. I mean, there's not a lot of style points for doing that. And in fact, no one ever sees it unless you do it before the goal line, and then you are the moron of the entire league, and it happened twice yesterday. The Jonathan Taylor thing, if you're a Colts fan, you have got to be sick to your stomach with what happened yesterday, because I really think that if he just takes it in and they get that touchdown, they win that game. Their defense was playing great at that time, and it just handed over 7 points to the Broncos and got them right back in the game.
Yeah, someone was asking who did it earlier in there. It was a Jets receiver, I think a rookie, who on his first touchdown, like, couldn't even make sure to get in, Hustler. Like, I never played competitive football, so I don't know what that feeling is like towards the end zone, but like now see why guys like jump and like do flips. They want to make sure they're getting in when they're all alone. I don't understand.
Waiters
what
correctly
this
saying Deshaun Jackson is the godfather of that move, because he did it in college and did it in the NFL. It's kind of the D-Jacks move. But why anyone would even consider doing that, or thinking that is a smart move to even cut it close, is absolutely beyond me. We got to see some absolutely terrible quarterbacking yesterday as well. The Giants, how about the Giants now down to their fourth QB? Tommy Cutlets gets knocked out, and Tim Boyle off the practice roster. This guy's actually been in a number of NFL games in the last couple of years. He was with the Jets. Now he's with the Giants. He's got it done. There was a great finish. Spencer Rattler went in for the Saints against the Commanders yesterday. After their Jake Hagan, I think is the guy's name, the guy that started for the Saints, who was a 4th-round pick making his first start. He was terrible. They came in down 7. They score a touchdown with 3 seconds left, and then go for 2, ran the exact same play, were unsuccessful, and ended up losing by 1. I guess in the Saints situation right now, that's probably not a bad thing to get another loss, get a better draft pick, but still be competitive. Meanwhile, a big win, though, for Washington by the skin of their teeth as they hang on to that wild card spot in the NFC. And when you look at the playoff right now, Reem, it really looks like, barring some sort of a miracle after the losses by the Colts and the Dolphins yesterday, that the AFC is set. There is a chance. The Chargers do actually have some pretty challenging games. They're home to Denver, and then they're at the Patriots and at the Raiders. I take that back. Those aren't really that challenging games. They pretty much have to lose out, and then, or maybe win one, and somehow the Bengals conference record is so bad. They're not winning tiebreakers against anybody. So the Colts could have been 1 game back at the Chargers if they had won that game. They didn't. The Dolphins lost to the Texans. They didn't. So the AFC looks pretty set right now as far as who's going to be in. Obviously, the Chiefs took care of business in Cleveland. Congratulations to the Chiefs for actually covering a spread for the first time in 2 months. Although I hated the way the second half went. They just kept on making Mahomes throw it. They didn't run the football at all. It made no sense. He ended up getting hurt. He should be fine, I hope. Certainly for the Christmas game. You wonder whether they'll play him against Houston on the weekend now that they've got the 1-game cushion over the Buffalo Bills. But I guess we will see. Steelers still 10-4. But I will say this, the win by the Ravens and the loss by the Steelers opens up the possibility of Baltimore still taking a run at that division. And of course, it's Steelers at Ravens on Saturday. Maybe the best rivalry, Remis, still in the National Football League. And the Steelers have a very tough end of the season at Baltimore, home to the Chiefs, and then home to the Bengals in a game that theoretically could still have the Bengals alive if they could win their next 2 games.
Joe Burrow's having this historic season, but their defense, they can't seem to stop anybody. And yeah, Ravens, Steelers, a good one. I think Vikings, Packers, up there for me as well. I think those are the at the top when I think rivalry, not like Jags Titans Thursday night football color rush.
Thursday night Super Bowl. Jags Titans color rush. I love it.
Not going up there, but those are probably the best ones when I think rivalries. And how about Lamar Jackson? Just having fun out there, 5 touchdown passes against the Giants, who are absolutely terrible. But good for Tim Boyle, though. Congratulations to him. Has never really done anything significant in the NFL and has been hanging around as a backup. He's like Chase Daniel has been around as a backup for a long time, collecting those backup checks.
The weird thing is that most of the quarterbacks that you'll see at that point, at least might have been highly drafted or, just really good college players. I saw his college numbers were 1 touchdown and 13 picks.
Yeah.
I have no idea how he ended up graduating to the NFL level, but hey, good for him. But the bottom line is if Tim Boyle is in for your team in NFL action, your team is screwed. And that certainly is the case of the Giants, although they've got the inside track and the number 1 overall pick right now up on the Raiders, who will look to lose tonight to the Falcons, and we'll get to that in the Cool Bet lines in just a minute. Hey, speaking of Cool Bet, not a bad week in the lock shop. Nailed the Green Bay game last night, and we were all over Tampa as well. We unfortunately, the partner parlay got blown up by moron Jonathan Taylor dropping the ball and somehow going from being up by 20 to not covering a 4.5 point spread. I'm not pleased with that. But I have to give a shout out to Jake Bolin Moss, who did the lock shop with me on Friday. How about this, Remis? Jake threw out a touchdown prop, and we were talking about the Ravens-Giants game, and said, listen, this is probably going to be a blowout. If you're John Harbaugh, are you giving Derrick Henry the ball in the second half? Probably not. So what about Justice Hill? Anytime touchdown.
Oh.
Plus 450.
Really?
So I rode with Jake on that one. We got it. That was very, very nice. As I said, 4.5 to 1. So inspired by that, I did a 3-player touchdown parlay for the late games. You're going to love this. And I figured we're going to go away from the obvious guys. So, Remis, my 3-gamer, I'm just going to pull it up here. Mike Evans from Tampa was at plus 125. I almost went Jalen McMillan, but I ended up going with the safer number with Mike Evans at plus 125. The other 2 guys, Tim Patrick for the Lions.
Nice.
At plus 275. And Pat Freiermuth for the Steelers at plus 275.
No.
All that together got me in excess of 30 to 1 and cashed it 5 minutes into the second half.
Oh, my God. Well done, Hustler. Very, very impressive. Big win for you, but it was also fantasy plays. You mentioned Derrick Henry. I was just thinking about how Derrick Henry and Saquon in top matchups completely underperformed. Jamar Chase had the big one last week. Didn't do much. I don't know if you had any fantasy playoff busts that you wanted to call out. I did win my matchup in the WST Listener League. I beat Running Man.
Nice.
His guys underperformed, so I'm on my way. I think I might be playing T. Will next week. I'm not. No, I don't think I'm playing him. I'm playing another guy, but I don't have Josh Allen, so I'm nervous because if you had Josh Allen in fantasy the last 2 weeks, you're probably feeling pretty good.
Well, I am. Listen, I was down to it. I've got a couple really good players on my team. I had no quarterback situation. I didn't trust C.J. Stroud anymore. So I went with the stack of Bryce Young and Adam Thielen. I mean, it was just whatever. It was Young had 11 points and Thielen had 10. But yes, I'm going against a team that has Josh Allen and Devontae Adams.
Yeah, you're
82 points between those 2 guys. And yet, I'm not dead yet. Chiefs defense, 21. My kicker, Chad Ryland of Arizona, got me 14. Nico Collins had 17. James Conner with 30. So, as it stands, I need a big game from Aaron Jones to complete a miracle. He's got Jacoby Myers and the Vikings D. and I've got Aaron Jones, and I'm up by 2. Incredibly, against a guy that had 42 from Devontae Adams and 40 from Josh Allen. So, yeah, some big fantasy implications for tonight's game. Let's get over to the lines because the big game that we'll be paying attention to, of course, is the Bears and the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings are 6.5-point favorites. I love the Vikings in this game. Minus 323 on the money line. And the total for the game is 43.5. The other game is the Falcons and Raiders. Falcons are now 6-point favorites. This number's gone up. Aiden O'Connell not expected to start. But the biggest line mover of it all, Max Crosby on IR. He'll miss the rest of the season. And that means this could be the get-right game for Kirk Cousins and the Falcons. Now, if you click over into the exclusives, we did a same gamer for each game. For the Viking-Bears game, Justin Jefferson anytime touchdown, Jordan Addison 55-plus receiving yards, and a Caleb Williams interception, plus 575. And then for the game between the Raiders and the Falcons, we've got Kirk Cousins, 240-plus passing, Mooney, 4 receptions or more, and Brock Bowers, 64-plus receiving yards. That one's boosted to plus 450. The other one's plus 575. So those are there right now. By the way, speaking of exclusives, Oilers are playing tonight. Now that they've been scoring a lot of goals, these EST parlays have been money. He's got Draisaitl to score, Bouchard with an assist. Oilers to win tonight is plus 555 because they've got their hands full with the Stanley Cup champs. I wonder, that's got to be the...
That's on Prime tonight.
That's the Prime game. Yeah, it's an early start there in Edmonton for sure.
And I know Barkov's got the flu, and he's a game-time decision. It seems to be going around in Florida. So, yeah, I actually like those. Those NFL ones, I think, are pretty good, too, in terms of telling the story of a game. You know, rookie quarterback throw an interception. Justin Jefferson, one of the best. Why not? And Addison's been pretty good, too. And, yeah, Cousins against this poor Raiders defense without a pass rush. Mooney's solid. Bowers, you know, like... I don't know what I haven't looked now, but Brock Bowers, as of last week or the beginning of last week, was leading the league in receptions as the rookie tight end. It's crazy the
so
season he's having.
He's so good
with these.
And I'll tell you what, just on this, I was watching. I don't watch a lot of college football, but when we were in Minneapolis, we were at a bar, and we were watching the Penn State game. Their tight end, I think his name is Tyler Warren, number 44. He just won the top tight end award, somewhat controversially apparently, on the weekend. I'm seeing him being mocked in and around 14. Reminded me a lot of Bowers. Incredible athlete that is basically a big, strong wide receiver that you can move all over the field. And listen, with the impact that Bowers has made this year, I think that's going to really help his draft stock, and teams will be looking to get a piece of that. As far as NHL goes, we mentioned that Panther-Oiler game. Florida plus 112, Oilers minus 131. The Capitals, the incredible Capitals, the Capitals with only 6 regulation losses this season, are in Dallas to take on the Stars. Let's go Caps. Washington plus 130 on the road. Dallas minus 154. Only have 3 games, but 3 really good games tonight, Remis. The final one, Colorado in Vancouver, Avalanche minus 144, and the Canucks plus 122.
Yeah, really intriguing what's going on in Vancouver. Thatcher Demko came back, hasn't played well. I saw Lankinen, he's been pretty good for them, though. JT Miller came back, had a point in his first game, and Mackenzie Blackwood, they just acquired him last week. Very strong over the weekend. He's starting again for Colorado. Do they have something there? Finally finding a goalie after, they couldn't get it done with Justice Annunen and Alex Georgiev. Panthers, Oilers, that's on Prime. Looking forward to that matchup. That's a rematch of the Stanley Cup final. Actually, now that I think about it, it seems so far away when we do our 2024 year in review, and Washington continues to surprise everybody. Ovechkin did go on the road trip. Huss did skate so quickly after breaking his leg. What a medical marvel he is, Huss, coming back.
Get him back in the lineup and get him scoring goals. Hopefully he get a bunch tonight. Is he going to play tonight?
No, I don't think he's in. We would know, but he's not in. I did see Frank Cervelli did an interview with Dylan Strome, who's kind of going underrated. You know, he's on pace for like 100 points this year.
I do know because I picked him in the last round of my hockey pool. And he is absolutely killing it for me this year. I think he's my number one player, and he was picked in the last round.
Yeah, he's got 37 points in 29 games. So, I mean, nice 1-2 down the middle with Dylan Strome and Pierre-Luc Dubois, Hustler. So, I mean, that's how you build a team. You see, we talked with Dennis about Nashville. They're building it with wingers and Marchessault, Stamkos, and then you got Washington, who's got two solid centers there. Dubois, he's fitting all right. Not a huge, I don't think he's going to be a huge point guy, but solid number 2.
Yeah, listen, he's helping them win a lot of hockey games right now, and no one's bitching about PLD like they were last year in LA. Again, just to wrap up the Cool Bet lines, hit the exclusives if you want our Viking Bears boosted bet or the Falcons Raiders. That's in the Cool Bet exclusives. And there is a great combo card, Remis, that to me is a no-brainer to play. The Monday Night Super Boost. Vikings to beat the Bears, Falcons to beat the Raiders. It's normally minus 127. It's boosted to plus 106. I think it's a max bet of 25, but I feel about as safe as you could possibly feel for that 25. So if you think the chalk teams are going to win tonight, never mind cover big spreads, you may as well double your $25 and then some with the plus 106 Monday Night Super Boost right at the top of the combo cards.
That's a good top. That's a good tip, Huss. I like who you guys are rolling with here with the cards and this. So I am gonna jump on that one when this is done. So some exciting stuff. Looking forward to the poker tomorrow. I see Son of Dirk in chat asking about the poker tomorrow. So we've had some good representation from WST with Randy D, a.k.a.
Eagle
Randy
Eyes.
River.
Eagle Eyes won, I think, or was...
I forget if he won or got
and then
second.
Nick, we'll have to see if Nick's going to come and defend the belt tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. We should get him on that. I know he's
Nick was I was in his section on Saturday at the game. He was a couple rows below me, and I believe in his season tickets. I was with one of my buddies that I went with. And I didn't see him after the game or at the intermission, but I was going to see if he's coming in to defend his belt. Hopefully he will be after such an incredible debut. But I also wanted to ask him how the KFC was at the arena now that it is in the building.
They have KFC? Wait. At the Jets games?
Yeah.
There's a KFC?
Multiple.
Come on.
Yeah, we got to get you out of the house into the games.
I'm coming Saturday. I'm coming Saturday for the Colonel.
When we're upstairs for the WST game, you'll be able to go to the YWG burger locations and get KFC. Now, I will admit I don't know exactly what the offerings are, but I saw a little KFC box. I know there were fries in there. I'm not sure whether it was tenders or actual pieces of chicken. We will find that out. But
come on.
Yes, my theory was that if you remember when KFC would score, they had that thing on the power ring with the bucket.
Yes, it's the best.
It is the best, and I have a feeling that was probably brought to the attention of the Jets or KFC, and then they realized, well, instead of fighting about us, let's come together. You guys should be a sponsor, and now KFC is a sponsor of the Jets, and it is available in the arena. So the YWG burger locations are where it is. I haven't personally had it. Nick did. If you're on any top-line media platforms, ask him how it was. We'll get to the bottom of it, and maybe we'll do a taste test on Saturday when we're there for the WST game.
Leslie says in chat you can get KFC chicken sandwiches, chicken fingers, popcorn, chicken, and fries. I did notice the giant KFC digital board ad in recent games. I mean, how could you not notice them? I can barely watch the game with that finger-licking good chicken in the background. Like I see, people talk about the Jets great power play, like the nice pass from Kyle Connor to Velarde. I couldn't even see it because there's some digital ad slideshow scrolling in the back. I'm still not over those. I like to see what's going on in there on the digital board ads. It's like a movie while you're watching a hockey game.
Yeah, you've been in a feud with digital board ads since last season.
Am I like the people who grew up when they first put in regular board ads? Like people remember when the boards were blank?
Just
how
white.
much better it was?
White
It was
boards.
all white. And then it's like, remember when there were no ads on the ice and you just had the sheet? Is it people like that, or is the digital? Did the digital board ads on the TV just take it to a whole new level that pissed everyone off? Maybe
you more than others, but I think you probably have some company.
I think they're better. They're less distracting than before. Maybe because I'm exposed less, but when they first came in, they're terrible. I still think they're terrible. But hey, you got to make that HRR, right? The salary cap's going up a couple million. Didn't go up by not making more money, hustler. So, got to squeeze everyone for everything you can.
All right, good stuff. Hey, if you haven't played a cool bet before, by the way, you want to get out any of those, join us tomorrow. When you're popping in there, use the promo code WST for a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. And just while we're talking fast food, Remis, just at the end of the program, I know we just hit the KFC stuff. New burger at Wendy's.
Oh my God, I heard the garlic mushroom, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I had it on the weekend.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Like, I don't mind the garlic sauce. It's not something I normally would have done. But I could not help thinking while I was eating it, just give us the damn bacon mushroom melt.
Yes.
Like, why are we trying to reinvent? Well, first of all, why isn't it on the menu 12 months a year? That is the biggest mystery of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And then at a time like this, I mean, I guess I commend them trying some new things. And again, it's got like the mushrooms, some garlic sauce, and like a whiter cheese, bacon. I mean, it's really good. Don't get me wrong, but we've talked about this before. I mean, pound for pound, I don't know if there's a better burger in the fast food game than the bacon mushroom melt. And it's not even available all the time at Wendy's. I will never understand this for as long as I live.
Yeah, I'm a big Wendy's guy. I look forward to that one time a year where the bacon mushroom melt is back on the menu, but it doesn't look like it's back. They introduced the garlic mushroom bacon cheeseburger, which I've also heard is very good. I do have to get around to having it, but again, I don't know. It's your best burger. It's better than, I don't know why the Baconator is the feature burger. Maybe because the name Baconator sounds
It's a cool
good.
name.
It's a cool name, but it's just no one needs that much bacon. There's more bacon than burger. I don't like that. The ratio is off. The bacon mushroom melts. Got the perfect bacon mushroom cheeseburger ratio. Tastes good. Melts in your mouth. It should be on there all the time.
It's a good point about the Baconator. I love bacon. I love cheese, but you're right. It is. It's just too extreme.
Yeah, it's just. Yeah, exactly. So I don't understand. I'll never understand that decision. I've tweeted at them all the time, and they always like my tweets.
I know.
At Wendy's Canada, but they never address it. So I don't know. I would talk to their PR. Like, why isn't it on there all the time? I don't get it. Why are you shunning your best burger?
Maybe this is the moment. Maybe someone from Wendy's sees this, agrees with us, and then says, you know what, WST, we need you guys to be promoters of the bacon mushroom melt, which is now available 12 months a year. You did it, guys.
Yeah, that's what we need to do.
I would love to do a bacon mushroom melt plug every single episode of the year at Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Well, one thing, if we're going to be try to get a write-in, our write-in thing is, hey, let's bring the Jets history back, Hustler, because that's our thing that we talk about all the time. And I know we're talking about food, but just moving away quickly. The NHL is announcing the quarter century teams coming up, and the Jets' official quarter century team will be announced on January 12th. And just because of the way it is, it will be including Atlanta players, My personal team would not include Atlanta players, but according to the rule book. So if we ever did do a write-in campaign, we got to get someone's attention. As much as I want to be like Wendy's, you got to make this burger. burger. Well, we'll stay in our lane. I'm voting for, if we had to do a write-in campaign, to bombard some PR person with all of our tweets every day until it's changed. That was the one. That is the one that I would do, tweeting at NHL PR.
So we need a list as we finish up 2024. Our goals, Winnipeg Sports Talk goals for 2025.
Yes.
Give the Jets their history back.
Yes.
Bacon mushroom melt available 12 months a year.
Done deal.
Two very noble goals right now
that
we can do. By the way, you know who else? I don't know. I was either thinking I was going to send it to you or it was way too late at night to do it. But Frank the Tank
sent it to me.
Frank walks with Biz Nasty. And Frank is like this crazy sports encyclopedia. In fact, he invented the sports e-cyclopedia. That was his thing before whatever he got onto Barstool back when he was like 500 pounds. But he walks every day. Now he's going on walks with all sorts of interesting sports people. He and Biz had some great hockey conversations. And Frank mentioned that he's a big WHA guy, lover of the WHA, and not asked, just out of the blue, brought up, he goes, Winnipeg needs its history back. So we may need to get Frank the Tank on at some point. To enlighten us with many of his takes, but also to get some support. He might also probably support the bacon mushroom melt being on 12 months a year as well. So we might be able to get some major support for both of our campaigns heading into the new year.
I think it's confusing to fans mostly, and I think you can eliminate a lot of that confusion and, bring back. You can have a big ceremony. You can sell it like we're having the Jets history back. I don't understand the way that it is, especially when they just said, you know what, Utah, you're starting fresh. You're not getting any of that Coyotes Jets history. Like, why the Jets history is dormant now with Arizona hockey, it doesn't make any sense. So I'll agree with you there. And one last thing, this ties in food and sports together. Do you remember the Pop-Tarts Bowl from last year?
Yeah, of course. Or didn't they get to eat the Pop-Tart after they won?
Where the Pop-Tart mascot, here it is, Huss. The Pop-Tart mascot went into the toaster after the game, and they ate it. Well, there's a new trophy for the Pop-Tarts Bowl this year. I don't know if you've actually
I haven't seen this.
Check out the trophy that they will be handing out. Hold on. There it is. Okay, wait. Where's this trophy? Okay, there it is. The trophy, Huss, is a football that you can actually toast Pop-Tarts in. They worked with GE, I guess December 20th. They worked with GE to build this trophy. Let me get a good picture of it, where you can toast a Pop-Tart in it. So here's the official unveiling. They had it. So the Pop-Tarts Bowl went totally viral before, last year. And there it is. You can toast Pop-Tarts in the Pop-Tarts Bowl trophy. This is maybe the best branded bowl game we've seen in history.
No, I agree. I totally agree. I'm just looking to see, do we have a matchup? Oh, Iowa State and Miami. It's actually going to be a pretty good game.
Yeah, see, and here's another look at the trophy.
10-3 versus 10-2 for the most prized trophy in college football. Not the college football playoff. No, the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
Oh, I did see DraftKings just tweet out, here it is, Pop-Tarts trophy is better than the national championship trophy. I mean, it might be greatest trophy in sports move over Stanley Cup? Can the Stanley, you can drink out of the Stanley Cup, but can you toast Pop-Tarts in it? I don't know, you got to plug this thing in, or is it battery power? I got a lot of questions.
This is December 8th. Is it an afternoon? Oh, it's an afternoon game too. We can watch it before we go down and watch the Jets and the Senators. Just been planning my entire holidays around Jet games and NFL and bowl games and all of that. It's a weird schedule this week. Chiefs, Houston, and Ravens, Steelers both playing on Saturday because all 4 of those teams are going to be playing on Christmas Day as well. So look at this, the Pop-Tarts Bowl. This is why, if you're listening on the podcast and you made it this far, well into OT or in a shootout, as people have just mentioned, you got to get over to the YouTube or just Google the Pop-Tarts Bowl. That being said, we have gone super long, so we should get this up so podcasters can get today's show. A very fun one today. Thanks again for everyone hanging around. Shout out to Rennie for jumping on with us. Dennis Bernstein, lots of fun with Dennis. And, of course, Michael Remis for some laughs at the end of the program. Viking fans, good luck tonight. Be pulling for you to get to 12-2, tied with the Detroit Lions. Let's go. And, again, we'll probably, just for fantasy purposes, be paying attention a little bit to the Raiders and the Atlanta Falcons. Tomorrow, however, though, going to be a good one. We will get ready for the Jets and the San Jose Sharks. We'll have the latest from California. Status of Nikolai Ehlers. The lineup's going to be looking. We should have that kind of later on in tomorrow's show. But we'll have plenty of Jets talk, more from around the National Hockey League, and a wrap of the week in the NFL after the 2 Monday Nighters tonight. Thanks again to all the sponsors that make our program happen each and every day. Support them if you can this holiday season, everybody. And join us tomorrow, 1 p.m., as we get ready for the Jets and Sharks, the first of a quick 2-game California road trip with the moms in tow. Have a great one, everyone. Enjoy the warm-up while it's here. Monday Night Football tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow on WST.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.